Chapter 31, Orders of the Hokage. Orochimaru ran a kunai over the tattoo on his arm. With the blood on it he slammed his hand down upon the ground. Summoning technique. In a massive puff of smoke a gigantic gold and black snake appeared. Leaping onto its head he laughed and ordered it to approach the walls of his old home. Behind him were the forces of the Sound Village, those that were not already within Konoha. They heard the first crack and many of them could feel their hearts stopping. The sphere was breaking open. With a sudden explosion and monstrous howl a massive figure made of sand began to take shape. Shikaku the one-tailed demon walked the earth again. Looking up at this horror the Kazekage wondered to himself for the 1000th time if he had done the right thing all those years ago. No, there was no point in idle speculation now. The dice were out of his hand. You know the plan. Follow in Gaara's wake and destroy whatever he leaves behind. He tried to cheer himself with images of a crushed and beaten Leaf Village and of his own village once more prosperous. He would make it happen. Gaara began to move and they all fell in behind him. Throughout the crowd at the stadium unconscious, civilians shed their disguises and stood revealed as Sound Ninja. Their mission was to try and eliminate as many enemy forces right from the start as possible and thus make the battle that much easier. They rushed in to engage those Leaf Nins who were still conscious. There would be no prisoners today. Their lord's orders were quite clear on that. They had come to destroy the Leaf Village, not merely conquer it. And so they set out to kill. As Tsunade watched, a dozen Sound Ninjas leapt from the stands towards them. What the hell? Tsunade shouted. Kushina was on her feet with the sword out. We're under attack. The Chunin who had been assigned guard duty had a kunai out and was at the Hokage side. Hokage-sama, please flee. Like hell I will. Tsunade concentrated chakra into her right hand. If these fools want a war, they've got one. There were Umbu stationed throughout the stadium, but nothing like this had been expected. They had been caught completely by surprise. The Umbu would get there to reinforce them, but not before the enemy were on top of them. XXXXXXXXXX. As Naruto and the others watched, they saw fighting erupt throughout the stands. Hey look! Kiba pointed at a group of enemy ninjas. They're going after the Hokage. Naruto and the others had been taken completely by surprise. But Kiba's words made his decision of what to do easy. His katana was out and he looked at them. All of you follow me. He leapt away and made a beeline for the Hokage's box. It said something about him that everyone in that balcony obeyed him without a second's hesitation. Not only his teammates but Tenten and Shikamaru as well. XXXXXXXXXX. The first two to reach the box were immediately cut down by Kushina's blade. The third was crushed by Tsunade chakra-enhanced fist. A sudden spray of needles forced them to duck behind the stone railing. And let the rest of their enemies reach the box. The Chunin who had been with them was quickly dispatched, though he did take one enemy ninja with him. Tsunade and Kushina found themselves back to back surrounded by 8 enemy ninja. Given their skill levels it might be interesting. But before they could make a rush, 2 of them had kunais blossom in their throats. One turned just in time to have his head sliced off by Naruto's katana. A shadow leapt out and caught the 5 remaining ninja. Kushina, Naruto, and Tenten quickly dispatched 4 of them. I want a prisoner. Tsunade ordered. Her words came just as Kushina's blade neared his throat. She was just able to stop. Mom. Godmother, are you all right? Naruto wanted to know. We're fine honey, how are all of you? Kushina asked. We're all fine. Naruto replied. Mom, what the hell is going on? That is an excellent question. Tsunade said as she grabbed the sole surviving Sound Nin by the throat. How about an explanation? I'll tell you nothing. The prisoner gasped. That's the wrong answer. Tsunade replied. She put her other hand on the man's shoulder and used some chakra. The man howled in pain. Let me explain something to you, tough guy. I'm a medic nin and I know where all the body's pain receptors are and just how to make them work full force. I need to know what's going on and I need to know right now and I don't care how much I have to hurt you to get that information. She worked some more chakra and the man was again screaming. For the genin present, even Naruto, this was a sudden and brutal introduction to one of the ugly necessities of shinobi life. It took less than a minute to have the man talking and as they all listened they realized just how serious things were. In that minute a squad of Umbu arrived as well as Jiraiya. As if on schedule they heard a loud explosion and felt the earth shake. From the box being so high up they had a clear view of the outer walls. Through the east wall a gigantic snake had just smashed through. Simultaneously on the south wall at the gate a massive raccoon of sand was tearing things up. Damn it! Tsunade screamed. XXXXXXXXXX. They had no sooner guessed what was going on than two ninjas wearing foreign Hittites appeared. Spotting them Haku threw his senbons at them. One went down with them in his throat. The other was fast enough to block them with a kunao. That one rushed forward and Haku went forward as well to meet him. The enemy ninja was bigger and stronger than Haku and managed to get a hold of him and they grappled. Gabriella was about to join in when she spotted a third ninja pop up behind them in the hall. Seeing what was going on that one pulled out a kunao and sent it flying right for Haku's back. No. Not Haku. On sheer instinct she leapt. She had to stop the knife. And as she leapt time, seemed, to, slow, down. The kunao came into sharp focus and she could see exactly where it was headed. And as it neared Haku's back she reached out her hand and caught it. The enemy ninja was stunned. He was even more stunned at the speed with which the girl in the kimono snapped her wrist back and sent it flying straight into his throat. Even without weapons she had no trouble helping Haku. She simply drove her fist into the enemy ninja's face. Once he was off Haku the two of them quickly defeated him. Are you alright Haku? Gabriella asked. She was relieved to see him nod. She quickly knelt down by the defeated ninja and checked his pouches. Kunao, shuriken, explosive notes, wire, gauze, she smiled up at Haku. These bastards are well prepared at least. Haku stared down at her in surprise. She quickly removed the ninja's belt and pouches to put them around her kimono. Gabriella you're... I know I'm stripping the dead but it can't be helped. You don't expect me to fight without any equipment do you? Haku shook his head. No, it's not that. Your eyes. She tied the belt on and made sure the pouches were all secure. Well that's better. Now what about my eyes? They're red. She froze. She was kneeling in front of the concession stand. She looked at her reflection in the polished stainless steel. She could see herself clearly. Her eyes were indeed red and in each pupil there swam two tomo. She honestly couldn't believe it. After all the time, effort, and suffering. Sherinan, she whispered. XXXXXXXXXX. We've been caught completely by surprise. Tsunade ground out. Hokage, Sama what are your orders? The lead Umbu asked. She looked down into the stands. There was a desperate battle going on right in front of her. Her instinct was to join in. Then she looked to where the sand demon and giant snake were tearing into the village. Damn it, she muttered. I have no choice. I need to get in control of my forces and set up a counterattack. She looked at the Umbu. I need to get to the tower and get in touch with all my ninja. The Umbu nodded. We will escort you there Hokage-sama. Tsunade turned to Kusina. We have a lot of good people who are stuck fighting here. Kusina stay here and help and pass on the word. When this stadium is secured and every enemy ninja is dead or prisoner bring every last available leaf nin to the tower. You'll be part of the counterattack. Hi Hokage-sama. She turned to Jiraiya. She hated what she was about to ask. Things are in chaos. I need time to pull everything together. Jiraiya nodded. You need me to buy you time. I do. She hated it. She was going to put him in extreme danger. But she had no choice. He understood and simply and grinned. Don't worry, I'll take care of the snake. No. Not the snake. He will have to wait. Taking out the one-tailed demon. That's the priority. He's doing a lot more damage and has to be stopped immediately or there won't be anything left of the village. Looking out, he could see how true that was. All right then, I'll take out the one tail. He moved one hand to cast a shunshin. Please be careful. Tsunade pleaded. He smiled and gave her a little wink. Always. With that, Jiraiya body flickered away. Finally Tsunade turned to the 5 applicants who had come rushing in to help her and Kushina. Looking at their young faces, she was faced with another decision she hated. All right, you 5, I hate doing this, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Until the fighting in this village is over, I am transferring all of you into a special squadron. As of right now, you are all part of Team Naruto, and Naruto, you are captain. He gasped and stood straight. Thank you, Hokage-sama. She shook her head. Don't thank me now. Thank me later by bringing everyone on your squad through alive and well. As captain, they are your responsibility, Naruto. Do you understand? I do. He nodded seriously. I won't let you down. I believe you, Naruto. I am assigning you an A-rank mission. In cases of surprise attack, there are standing orders to evacuate all students and civilians to the cliff shelters. I want you to get to the academy and assist the teachers there with the evacuation. Then I want you to stay with the students and help guard them until this battle is over. The academy? Naruto questioned. He sent a look to his mother. Couldn't we stay here and... Naruto? Tsunade said sharply. That got his attention. This is not busy work. I have no idea how bad the penetration is, and those students are a high priority targets. Get to the academy and protect them. That is your mission, and I expect you to carry it out like the leaf shinobi you are. She looked at all the genin. I expect every one of you to fight for and defend this village. Hearing that, they all proudly nodded. We will protect the students no matter what. He turned to his team. All right. We're going in a 5-man diamond formation. I'll take point. Kiba opened his mouth, but Naruto sent him a glare and he closed it again. Hinata, with your bloodline, you're best suited for rear guard. She nodded. Tenten, Shikamaru, and Kiba in the middle, and keep a sharp eye out. Kiba, keep a sharp nose out. Tenten, with your weapon skill you can be a major help. Do you have plenty of weapons? She nodded eagerly. I'm loaded for bear. All right then. Let's move out, Team Naruto. With that, the 5 of them leapt away. Kushina watched them go and whispered a silent prayer for Kami to watch out for them. I'm sorry, Kushina, Tsunade said. But I have to use everyone I have to save the village. Kushina gave her a sad smile and bowed. Please do not apologize for behaving like a Hokage. She then leapt away and into the stands below to join the fight. Tsunade frowned. No wonder the old man wanted out of this job. She had just sent people she loved into danger. If anything happened to them, it would be her fault. But the really horrible thing was that if it saved the village, she would do it again. Damn it, let's go. She and her Umbu escort headed for the tower. XXXXXXXXXX. The sound Ning came straight in at her. He didn't bother with feints or deception. It was just a straight-on attack. She could see the smile on his face and could guess what he was thinking. Some stupid girl in a kimono had somehow not gone to sleep and had picked up a kunao. Why did men always underestimate women? Especially beautiful ones. Gabriella realized she shouldn't be annoyed, as it gave her an advantage. His attack was easy to avoid and she got inside of his reach. At the very last second she saw fear in his eyes. Maybe he had recognized her skill level. Maybe he had spotted her eyes. Either way, it was too late for him. She rammed her kunao through the bottom of his jaw into the base of his skull. His blood sprayed in her face as she stepped aside and let him topple over onto a fat woman who was peacefully sleeping. She's going to wake up with a dead man lying on top of her. Another sound nin came at her. This time she worked some signs. Spitfire technique. Out of her mouth she spat out a small stream of fire that struck him square in the chest. He was quickly turned into a living torch and screamed, but not for long. She looked around for someone else to fight. She saw a sound nin with a couple senbons in his neck drop. Looking around she saw there were no other enemies nearby. There was still fighting going on in the stadium, but the section they were in was clear. Along with Haku there were 4 other leaf nins there. With a temporary halt to the fighting she took the chance to catch her breath. She also took a quick look at herself. Her beautiful kimono was stained with dirt and blood. Damn it! Haku was at her side immediately. What's wrong? This kimono cost 5,000 ryu. It's 100% silk. This is the first time I've ever worn it and now it's ruined. Haku looked at her, not sure how to reply. Well, I thought it was very pretty. Emphasis on was. Haku's radio crackled to life. Haku? Gabriella? Do you copy? Haku hit his send button. Kushina-sama, this is Haku, Gabriella is here with me. What is your status? Are you both alright? Kushina's voice spoke. Kushina-sama, we are both fine. We have been fighting but currently are having a respite. Haku said. Glad to hear it. I'm still fighting. Where are you? We are in Stadium Section A12. Haku reported. I am in A1. I want you and Gabriella to try and get to me, but don't take any foolish chances. Understood. Haku looked at Gabriella and pointed. Section A1 should be right there. They would have to circumnavigate about a quarter of the stadium and there was still plenty of fighting going on in the intervening sections. This will be difficult. He obviously was ready to do whatever it took to reach Kushina. Gabriella took a look to where Section A1 was and smiled. Maybe not. She looked to the 4 other leaf nins. We just got orders from our sensei to join up with her. You can come with us if you like. The other 4 were all older than she was, though none of them seemed to be of higher rank than Genin. One by one they all nodded, more or less thinking it was better to stay together as a unit. All right, she turned to Haku. Do you want to do this the easy or hard way? He looked at her a little surprised. So long as we still reach Kushina, Sama, the easier way would be better. She smiled. Right then, follow me. With that she leaped out of the stands and down onto the arena floor. Surprised Haku and the others nevertheless followed her out onto the arena floor where they ran at top speed. Kushina-sama said not to take any foolish chances. Haku pointed out. Our chances are a lot better running straight to her rather than trying to fight our way through 11 sections. Gabriella replied. But everyone can see us. Haku said. So what? Gabriella replied. I'm betting that they're all too busy to bother with us. Besides, she said happily. We're here. Sure enough, they leapt up into Section A1. Upon arriving they noticed there were a lot more dead bodies in this section than there had been in A12. They immediately spotted Kushina facing off with a sound nin. This was the first time they had seen her in live combat. As they watched her sword cut the sound nin's head of as neat as you'd please. The 2 of them hurried over and each flanked her. Gabriella was stunned to see her sensei's face completely soaked in blood and her sword was coated red. And at her feet were about 8 bodies. All of them with their heads cut off. She gave each of her students a happy smile. I am very glad to see both of you all right. She looked at Gabriella a bit. Oh, I'm sorry you ruined your kimono, dear. Gabriella sighed. It's all right. Before she could say anything more a sound nin charged at her. She had a kunao up and ready, but before she could move Kushina had leapt in. With one expert slice of her sword, a ninth headless corpse joined the pile in front of them. Gabriella's eyes expanded a bit. Kusina had made it look ridiculously easy. "All right," Kusina called out. "We're just about done here. We'll press on to the next section and help clear that one out. And to the next one and the next one until we've cleared the stadium of enemies. Once that's done, we'll rally to the tower and help clear the village." Gabriella noticed that though many of the ninjas fighting here were jonins, they accepted her orders without question. One of the jonins with some crazy silver hair and his Hittite over one eye came over towards her. "Kusina, is this Gabriella?" Kusina smiled. "Yes. Well, I'm pleased to meet you. Your sensei has told me quite a bit about you. I am Heitake Kakashi." "Kakashi? Kakashi of the Sharingan?" she said in surprise. He nodded. "I hope you won't hold that against me the way some of the Uchiha do." She shook her head. "No, it's fine with me." Kakashi smiled. "Glad to hear it." He paused. "Kusina, I thought you said your student didn't have the Sharingan." "She doesn't." Kusina confirmed. "Actually, she does." "What?" Kusina looked at Gabriella. Gabriella smiled proudly. "Surprise." Kusina smiled and shook her head. "Well, today is definitely the day for them. Come on, let's clear out section A2. Chapter 32, True Strength. He had not been in Konoha on that terrible night when the Kuwabai attacked. He'd been doing a little research in a remote spot in grass country. The first he'd heard that the Kuwabai was threatening his home was on October 11th. He'd raced back to Konoha in just a day and a half. Just in time to attend Minato's funeral service. He'd heard many of the survivors talk about the raw power of the Kuwabai and how hopeless it had seemed to face it. Now, looking at the Shikaku joyfully flattening entire blocks with a single paw, he had a real understanding of what Minato and the others had faced that day. This was even worse than the Kuwabai's attack had been. Hundreds of brave ninja had died that night, but the Yandame's heroic sacrifice had stopped the Kuwabai short of the village. Standing on a rooftop, he could see and hear the mass of civilians running through the streets. There was an evacuation plan in place, but the people were in an utter panic. He doubted if 1 in 10 among them knew where they were headed. They just knew survival required they get away from that. And as the civilians ran, brave leaf ninjas were trying to fight it. They had to know it was hopeless. That their stand was nothing more than suicide. Yet they were determined to sell their lives to try and give the people of Konoha at least a chance to get away. He leapt forward toward the battle zone. He'd noted that none of the sand ninja had put in an appearance yet. Why should they? He thought bitterly. They probably plan to let the Shikaku flatten everything and then pick through the rubble. He landed in an empty street near where the fighting was taking place. "Lord Jiraiya." A ninja with a scarred face landed beside him. It took him a second to recognize him. "Is that you, Ibiki?" "Yes, sir." "Have you come to help?" "I've come to take over." "Pull everyone back, I'll handle things from here." "But Lord Jiraiya, how can you stand alone against that?" He smiled. "Because I am Jiraiya, the legendary Toad Sage and Sunin. Now pull them back and thank the heavens I'm here." Ibiki nodded and disappeared. In swift order, the leaf ninja began to retreat past him. He smiled up at the monster as he bit down on his thumb. "Sorry, you Suna bastards, but it's not gonna be that easy. Even if I have to die, I'm stopping you." He flashed through the hand signs and slammed him hand down on the street. Summoning technique. With a massive puff of smoke, he found himself riding atop Gamabunta's head. XXXXXXXXXXX. His radio came to life with Hinata's panicked voice. "Naruto-kun. 4 ninjas about to ambush us." Naruto stopped on a roof and held up a fist, bringing his new team to a halt on the same rooftop. He was about to ask Hinata where the enemy were when they attacked. The enemy obviously thought Naruto and his team were simply a bunch of kids running about in a panic. Their first clue that wasn't the case was when one of them died with a kunai through his throat. Another came straight at Naruto with a pair of kunao. Naruto performed some of the steps for the dance of the lilies and drove his sword through his chest. The other two were quickly caught by Shikamaru's shadow. Great job, team. He walked over to the two prisoners. We're going to the Ninja Academy. Can you tell us anything about your plans for it? Both ninjas said they didn't know. He didn't think they were lying. But just to make sure. Hinata-chan. Their heartbeats didn't change, Naruto-kun. They are telling the truth. Hinata-chan, we're within 2 miles of the academy. Can you take a look? She nodded and did just that. What she found was very bad. Naruto-kun, the academy is surrounded by about 40 enemy ninjas. And, there are dead bodies in the courtyard, a couple teachers but mostly students. What? Kiba said. You murderous bastards. Why are you going after the kids? They're not even ninjas yet. The first prisoner shook his head a bit, which was all that the jutsu would allow. We weren't part of that operation. Our squad was sent in to pick off any targets of opportunity. But it doesn't matter, you're all dead. Lord Orochimaru has ordered that this village be left an empty ruin and every last living soul in it killed. I guess the brats in the academy were just high on the list. Kiba snarled. That's pretty brave considering where you are right now. You're going to kill both of us anyway, so it doesn't matter. We wouldn't do that. Hinata said. We don't kill helpless prisoners. The sound nin actually smiled. I can see the look in this one's eyes. He nodded to Naruto. He's going to kill us. Naruto-kun. Hinata asked worriedly. This is war, Hinata-chan, and the rules are different. He looked at her. How are we supposed to take them prisoner? We've got a mission to complete and I'm not going to waste the time taking them to the police or Umbu headquarters if those places are even still secure. We sure as hell are not taking them with us, and if we leave them tied up, one of their friends may come along and let them go. I'm not taking the chance of letting them go free to kill others. Naruto-kun, if we do this, how is it different from what Gaara did in the forest? The difference is that Gaara could have let those ninjas live and it wouldn't have done him or his team any harm at all. If I let these two live and they get away, other people might die because of it, and I won't let that happen. Naruto-kun, it would still be murder. The sound nin actually laughed. And you call yourself a ninja? Ninjas kill, and believe me, to the person you're killing it's always murder. We're wasting time here. Tenten ended the debate by throwing a kunao into each of their throats. Hinata, she looked at the other girl. Naruto is right. This is war. You heard it from their own mouths, they've come here to kill everyone. We have to stop them no matter what. We have to kill Hinata, this is war and we have to kill. Hinata saw Kiba and Shikamaru both nod and she slowly nodded as well. Hinata-chan, Naruto said quietly. There are bodies on the courtyard, are there people still inside? Hinata nodded. I'd say there are 12 instructors and maybe 200 students. Do you think there's any way we can get into the academy? Hinata took another look. They only have a couple ninjas in the back, most of them are lined up in front. Makes sense, Shikamaru said. They must figure there's no way to get all those kids moving fast. If they try getting everyone out the back way, they'd still be all over them. But the 5 of us should be able to move fast enough to get in. Naruto nodded to himself. All right, let's get to the academy. XXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya. What is this about? Gamabunta demanded. Hey Bunta, we need to take that ugly raccoon out. Gamabunta flattened his eyes. Shikaku the sand demon? Why should I go to the trouble of fighting him? I'll buy you some sake. Try again. Because we're lifelong pals. Ha. Alright, Jiraiya said seriously. How about because Minato gave his life to save this village? If we don't stop that ugly beach ornament, this village is going to be destroyed and he'll have died for nothing. Gamabunta was silent for a moment and then rumbled a short laugh as he pulled out his sword. Now that is a reason to fight. Keep in mind the priority is not just to stop him but to protect the village. We need to lure him away from Konoha if we can. Got it? Now hang on. Jiraiya focused chakra into his feet as Gamabunta leapt. Gaara has actually been enjoying himself so much he had failed to notice the new arrival. He had lifted his right arm to smash another city block to rubble when a gigantic sword swept in and cut his arm off at the shoulder. Both the arm and the sword went flying. Gamabunta landed behind Gaara in a part of the village already flattened. Damn, I lost my sword. His sand body is too dense. The Shikaka form swung about and faced the giant frog. Who are you? He demanded. I am the legendary Toad Sage Jiraiya and this is Gamabunta the boss Toad summon. And we're here to put an end to you. Bunta, give me oil. Right. Gamabunta's belly expanded and a river of black oil spewed from his wide mouth. Using a jutsu, Jiraiya spat out a steady stream of fire, turning the oil into an inferno that engulfed Gaara. Gaara howled, not in pain but in frustration and anger. Jiraiya watched the massive blaze and actually hoped it might be enough. Do you think? Another deafening roar gave him an answer. The fire died away and left a massive pall of grimy black smoke. Out of the smoke stumbled the three-legged Shikaka form. Gaara moved stiffly as his entire body seemed to shine brightly in the sun. The intense fire had turned the Shikaku's upper layer to glass. With a loud crack the glass broke and began to fall in great chunks. Gaara turned his snout towards the giant frog. He was absolutely furious now that someone had attacked him and actually done a small amount of harm. I'm going to kill you. Time to lead him away, I think. Jiraiya suggested. Right. Gamabunta leapt southwards out of the village. The bigger and slower Shikaka form gave chase. Come back here and fight me. XXXXXXXXXX. Before the fight had begun, Tamari had confidently predicted that things would not long go according to plan. But she had not imagined this. She and all the other Sunanin stared in shock as Gaara, their ace in the hole, their secret weapon, and the center of their battle plan, abandoned them to go chase after a giant frog summon. All the Sand Nins began to look at one another in a panic and soon all eyes turned to the Kaze cage. He wanted to scream and to curse Gaara to the deepest dankiest pit in hell. He couldn't do that though, his people needed their supreme leader to exude confidence and self-control. He very quickly assessed the situation. Whatever his other faults, he had a sharp mind and a good grasp of strategy and tactics. With Gaara's unexpected departure, the battle plan was worthless. In essence, the plan had been to let Gaara do most of the fighting and break enemy resistance. Suna had always had a smaller population than Konoha. That was why they'd always had to rely on quality over quantity. He had brought a grand total of 500 shinobi, and these included damn near every jonin and shinin the Sand Village had, along with the most talented and experienced genin. Konoha had roughly about 2,000 shinobi of all ranks. The Otokage had promised to bring 1,000 ninja. He did not know just how far he could trust Orochimaru. Even if he really had brought that many, the quality of his ninja varied wildly. Sound was a new village after all, and too many of their ninja were not experienced enough. The Kaze Cage looked over his people carefully. He was well aware that this was a crucial moment in the history of Suna. His ninja were all still outside the now flattened walls. He not yet committed them to battle. Gaara had done quite a bit of damage and killed a number of enemy ninja. But there was no way to ascertain how many. Likewise, his allies were clearly doing damage and killing enemies. But there was no way to guess how many. Unlike Orochimaru, the Kaze Cage was not out to destroy Konoha. He would be satisfied with leaving it weakened and no longer a competitor for contracts. For him, this was about restoring the economic health of his village. Clearly Konoha had already suffered from this day's events. But had they suffered enough? What sort of reserves did the Leaf Nin still possess? He had two choices. He could simply leave. Now that Gaara was off on some wild frog chase, his plans were ruined. His forces had not stepped foot into the Leaf Village yet and had suffered no casualties at all. He could turn away from battle and return home with his entire force completely intact. He had no doubt that the Sound Nins would fight on even if he abandoned them. He could achieve his dream of weakening Konoha without suffering any casualties. He sighed. But if he did that, the alliance with Sound would be destroyed. Orochimaru was a dangerous enemy to have, as Tsunade was learning right now. And if Konoha somehow survived with much of her strength intact, they would come looking for revenge. But there was one more critical factor to consider. He had led them here to fight. His people had come here in accordance to his will. What would they think of him if he told them to retreat now without even stepping foot into the Konoha? They would think him weak and afraid. There was no real choice. Damn Gaara. I hope he finally dies, then all this really would have been worth it. Gaara has done enough. He spoke loudly and with voice ringing with confidence. The Leaf Ninjas are in confusion and fighting on two fronts. We will go in and finish this. Follow me and let us fight for the greater glory of Suna. With that he led the way. Temari followed in his wake along with the others. Her fan was out and she was ready, though not eager. XXXXXXXXXX. The five of them were able to get in through the rear entrance without a fight. But the moment they entered, Iruka and another Chunin were there about to attack. Naruto held up his hands, one of them had a bloody katana in it. Wait, Iruka-sensei. It's us. Iruka and the other Chunin held up for just a second. Can you prove it? Iruka asked suspiciously. Naruto thought quickly. Sasuke's a jerk. Iruka lowered his kunao. Naruto, good to see you again. But what are you and the others doing here? The Hokage sent us here to help you get the students to the shelters. The other Chunin looked horribly disappointed. Are things that bad? She couldn't spare one real squad. Before Naruto could answer that, Iruka did. Don't underestimate them, especially not Naruto. I think I'd rather have him here than almost anyone else. Naruto smiled. Come with us. In short order they were in the large hall right outside the main door. Everyone else was already gathered there. The Chunin instructors looked grim but determined. All the students were there too. Some of them were crying and he could hear soft pleas for mothers. A handful of the fourth-year students looked determined and almost ready. Naruto noted that among those few were a Hyuga cadet branch member and an Uchiha. Naruto also did not fail to notice that everyone had been issued weapons. Their fear smell is off the charts. These kids are terrified. Kiba whispered to him. Can you blame them? They're just kids. Naruto whispered back. It was a little odd saying that as the two of them had been here less than 6 months ago. But in the time since graduation they had grown up. Naruto. One of the kids jumped up and ran over to him. Have you come to save us? Naruto smiled down. Yes, we have, Konohamaru. We're getting all of you out of here. Konohamaru smiled. I knew it. You'll definitely rescue us. Don't be stupid. An annoyed voice called out. He's not much older than we are. He can't do anything against real ninja. The fourth-year Uchiha declared. If you think that, what do you think you're going to do? Kiba said with a grin. The Uchiha turned a bit red and shut his mouth. Konohamaru turned to glare at the same kid. Shut up. He saved me before and I've seen Naruto in action. He's the best. If he says he can save us, then he can. He put a hand on the young boy's shoulder. Konohamaru, he said quietly. Me, my team, and your teachers will get you all to safety. I promise. Konohamaru immediately nodded, certain everything would be all right now. Then went back to sit with his two friends. Iruka spoke quietly. That was a very large promise, Naruto. He slowly nodded. I know it was Iruka-sensei and I never go back on my word. I think they're getting ready to rush us. One of the Chunin called. He sounded calm and resolute. Naruto calmly wiped down his blade. There was a lot of blood on it. He holstered it. He knew what he had to do. He looked at the kids and at his teammates. All of you listen to me. I am going to show you a special power I have. It may seem very frightening, but don't be afraid. He stuck his thumb to his Hitai. I'm a leaf ninja and I will give my life to protect all of you. Whatever you see or sense, don't be afraid of me. What special power are you talking about, Naruto? Shikamaru asked. Kiba and Hinata were both sending him worried looks. Naruto took a very deep breath. I'm what they call a Jinhuriki. Inside me I have the Kyuubi. Tenten, Shikamaru, and the students all gasped. Kiba, Hinata, and the teachers eyed him with worry. Naruto-kun. Hinata spoke upset. Why are you telling everyone that? Because I'm about to show them and everyone else. He said quietly. I'm going to have to use all my power to keep my promise. He gave Hinata a little smile. And you know I can't break my promise no matter what. Naruto-kun. I think I'd rather take my chances against the ninja. One of the teachers muttered. Quiet. Iruka snapped. You're lying. One of the students jumped up and pointed. Everyone knows the Yondaime Hokage killed the Kyuubi to save the village. No, Naruto said. Biju cannot be killed by mortals. My father placed the Kyuubi inside of me. And I am going to use its power to protect all of you. But how? Your teachers will explain everything later. He really didn't want to discuss it. He walked towards the door. Naruto, are you sure about this? Iruka asked nervously. It's the only way. Besides, he flashed Iruka a confident grin. I've used the power twice now. It'll be okay. From the doorway he carefully looked out to the courtyard. He had a nice clear view of a dozen tiny bodies with kunao and shuriken sticking out of them. Big brave ninja ambushing some unarmed children. The sight was plenty to spark his anger. And from deep within him he felt something dark and terrible come to life. XXXXXXXXXX. We're 20 miles from the village, this should be far enough. Jiraiya called. All right. Gamabunta landed and turned about in some thick forest. It took a short while for the Shikaku form to catch up to them. Are you finally tired of running? Gaara screamed. He was furious, no one was supposed to be able to keep away from him like that. You are my prey. Have you any idea how angry you have made me? You're angry. Jiraiya shouted. You can stuff it down the rabbit hole. Cause whatever you're feeling, I guarantee you it's not a shadow of the anger I'm feeling. You traitorous bastards broke out alliance and betrayed us with Orochimaru. Our two villages had been friends since the end of the Third Great Ninja War. Friends? Are you serious, old man? There are no friends in this world. Everyone cares only about themselves. I love and care about only myself. Everyone else can burn, and that includes my so-called family. If that is how you truly feel, then I pity you. I'd rather be dead than not care about anyone else. You can have all the power in the world, but if you have no one you want to protect, then you are still weak. A ninja only finds real strength when he is fighting to protect those dear to him. You're calling me weak? Gaara screamed at him. All right. I'll show you my full power then. On the Shikaku's forehead, Gaara's body seemed to half emerge. He remained planted in the sand up to his hips. He cast a jutsu. Playing possum technique. Oh no. This is bad. Gamabunta announced. What? Jiraiya asked. The host just forced himself to sleep. So? Jiraiya asked. Suddenly Shikaku laughed. I'm free. Oh, and lucky me. I see someone I want to slaughter right off the bat. He slammed his curled paw into his belly and disgorged a massive bubble of air. Air bullet. Gamabunta leapt just in time to avoid the explosion as the air bullet struck the forest. His belly expanded and he spat out a huge bubble of water. Water bullet. Shikaku jumped away laughing as the water bullet missed. He's faster than before. Jiraiya said. That's because with the host asleep the demon comes awake. He's much more powerful than he was being controlled by the host. Shikaku fired off a pair of air bullets. Gamabunta got off one water bullet. He took out one of the air bullets but the other struck him. Ah! Bunta! Jiraiya shouted. I'm alright? But a couple more of those and I'm done. He's just too powerful for me. What can we do? He's got one weakness. The exposed host. If I can hold Shikaku in place for a few seconds, can you reach him? Yes. A few seconds will be all I need. Alright. Since I don't have any claws or fangs to hold on with, I'll need help to transform. I'm not very good at it, so I'll need you to provide me the image of something to transform into. Not a problem. Here we go then. Remember, you'll have one chance to reach the host and wake him. Wake him. Jiraiya held out his palm and began concentrating chakra. Forget waking him. I'm gonna kill him. That works too. Gamabunta dodged and just avoided another air bullet as he rushed in. Here we go. Joint transformation technique. Gamabunta was shrouded by a screen of smoke. Out of the smoke burst the form of a gigantic wolf. The wolf landed and clamped down his jaws while taking hold with both paws. Jiraiya had his opening and leapt for the sleeping kid. Raise non. XXXXXXXXXX. More than 200 eyes witnessed the red chakra leak out and cover his body. They saw him change and fangs and red eyes come out. He's a monster. One of he children wailed. No, he's not. Hinata shouted at the boy. He is Namikaze Naruto. He's a leaf ninja and a hero. What he's doing is to keep us safe. Don't you dare call him that. Konohamaru jumped up and faced his classmates. That's right. Naruto would never hurt us. He's a hero and he's going to kill those bad ninjas. That's right, a deep voice said. He turned a little bit and gave them all a good view of his features. They could feel the immense chakra with its evil taint just seemed to fill the hall. Except for Kiba and Hinata, they all eyed him with at least a little bit of fear, even Shikamaru and Irika. I'm going to kill those bad ninjas. You are all precious to me and I'll kill anyone who threatens any of you. With that he rushed out the doors and into the courtyard. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sita turned to his teammate. What the hell? Can you feel that? Karu nodded. Of course I can. I've never felt a chakra like that. Sita took a nervous look at the academy doors. They'd been about to rush in, but the sudden feeling of that chakra stopped them. Sita wasn't all that eager with the assignment. He didn't particularly relish killing children. But Konoha had it coming. The whole village had it made itself Lord Orochimaru's enemy, and so they all had to die. Look! Karu shouted. Out of the doors had come one ninja. He was surrounded by a weird visible red chakra. The chakra reminded him almost of an animal's outline. There was even a tail. Sita and the other sound nins immediately launched a flurry of kunao and shuriken. They struck and bounced off. 3 or 4 explosions followed quickly as kunao and with explosive notes were thrown. When the smoke from the explosions cleared, the ninja was still standing there. He seemed to be laughing. Is that all you've got? The leaf nin mocked with a deep and cruel sounding voice. You're not fighting children now. A jonin to Sita's right ran through some hand signs. He suddenly stood and held out his right hand. A bolt of lightning jumped from his fingers and covered the 30 yards to where the leaf nin was. The lightning struck home and exploded into a shower of sparks. The leaf ninja didn't even seem to take notice. He's toying with us. Karu said. He doesn't think we can hurt him. Sita spoke nervously. Maybe we should retreat. They heard a deep laugh echo from the courtyard. The leaf ninja suddenly dropped to all fours, making him seem even more like an animal. I can smell your fear. He called out. Let me give you something to really fear. He leapt and seemed to cover the 30 yards between them in less than a second. Just that quickly he was in among them. Sita and Karu both tried to run. His chakra seemed to come to life and arms reached out from it. Sita and Karu were both caught. He wanted to try and surrender. Before he could even take a breath he felt his ribs being crushed and blood filling his mouth. XXXXXXXXXX. There were 38 sound nins posted in front of the academy and 2 to its rear. Of the ones in front some tried to fight but most tried to run. None of them got away. The 2 in back witnessed the slaughter and came to the conclusion that their best course of action would be to report this to their superiors. They left in haste and got away from the academy as fast as they could. Inside the academy the Chunin instructors had a partially obstructed view of the battle. In glimpses and flashes and in screams they pieced together what was happening. He's tearing them apart. He's literally tearing them apart. One Chunin whispered. It's unbelievable, terrifying. A second whispered back. He is that, but right now I'm very glad that we have him. The other Chunin thought about it and slowly nodded. So am I. After only 5 minutes it was all over. Naruto, his team, Irika, and a couple other instructors assembled on the courtyard. Naruto was still surrounded by red chakra. I don't see any more enemy ninjas between us and the cliff. Hinata announced. I think if we move quickly we can get everyone there. All right then. Irika decided. We'll get them moving. Your team can help us guard them, Naruto. Naruto nodded and performed some hand signs. 50 shadow clones came to life. These were exact copies and had red eyes, claws, and his other temporary features. All they lacked was the red chakra. Each one pulled out a katana and wakizashi and swiftly took up positions to help escort and protect the students. My clones will protect you and so will the rest of my team. I have to go though. What? Naruto-kun, you have an order from the Hokage. Hinata said. I haven't forgotten, Hinata-chan. My clones will help and I promise that if something starts destroying a bunch of them I'll get back to you in a flash. But with them the teachers, and the rest of the squad, that should be plenty to keep everyone safe. With my power I need to do more. I'm going to go help anywhere some of our people are in real trouble. But Naruto-kun. You're in charge of the squad, Hinata-chan. Naruto leapt away. Naruto-kun, don't go. Hinata shouted, but he was already gone. XXXXXXXXXX. Jiraiya plunged his rasengan into the boy's chest. The red-haired boy's eyes shot open. He saw shock and fear there. And then to Jiraiya's surprise, he thought he saw relief. The eyes glazed over. "No!" Shikaku howled. He stopped moving and the gigantic form began to dissolve and crumble into sand. Jiraiya grabbed the boy and leapt away. Landing, he put the boy down and gently shut his eyes. I'm sorry, kid. I know you didn't have a choice in this any more than Naruto did. And I guess you never had someone like Kushina there for you. Jiraiya didn't even know the boy's name but felt sympathy for him. Only someone who had never known love could have said the things he had. For a Jinchuriki, Naruto's upbringing had been the exception. Whatever this poor boy had gone through was more likely the norm. When the fighting was done he would come back here and give the poor kid a proper burial. Great job, Bunta. He said tiredly. Now we have to get back to the village and squash some snakes. Gamabunta slowly shook his head. I'm sorry, Jiraiya, but I'm about out of chakra. I wish I could stay and help you fight. That's alright, you've done more than enough today. Thank you, Bunta. The next time we meet I'll buy you around. Gamabunta chuckled. That you will. With a puff of smoke he was gone. Jiraiya wasted no time and began leaping back to the village. It would take him 20 minutes to get there. He had deliberately had Buntalied their enemy so far away so that even if they did fail to beat the one-tailed Tsunade would at least have the time to come up with something else. But having gone so far it would take him 20 minutes to get back. He hurried in the hopes he would get back in time to help decide the battle. He wouldn't. Within those 20 minutes the battle and the fate of Konoha would be decided. Chapter 33, The Divine Wind. From her office window she saw Gamabunta leaping away and the one-tailed demon chasing him. He had done it. Jiraiya had given her the time she needed to try and organize things. You had better come back all right, you damn pervert. Lady Tsunade, Shizun spoke up. I have Ibiki on the line. His forces are currently not engaged. He wants to know if you want him to shift eastward and help fight the incursion there. Tsunade shook her head. No. The Shikaku may be gone but we have to expect a conventional attack from Suna in that area. Tell Ibiki to hold in place. How is Danzo doing? She didn't like or even trust him. But she was the first to admit that he was a tough old bastard and loved Konoha. She had no doubts that he would fight like to hell to defend the village. He has retreated another half-mile. He says he estimates the enemy force to be about 600. He has only about 80 men. He says the best he can do is slow them down. Shizun reported. Just slowing them down would be enough for now. Tell him to do the best he can until I can send him reinforcements. Any word from the academy? Shizun nodded. All the phone lines are still cut but we just got a radio report from an Umbu squad sent to check. They report a large number of dead sound nins along with a couple academy teachers and 14 students. The rest of the academy population is gone. To the shelters? Tsunade asked. That's the presumption but they don't know for sure. Shizun said. Tell them to go and make certain. Of course she knew that Naruto and his team carried radio communicators. What she didn't know was which frequency they were using and it hadn't occurred to her to ask him earlier. I never thought the enemy would have so many units already inside the village and that they would cut our phone lines. I should at least have thought of the possibility. How many ninja do we have at hand right now? Shizun quickly scanned her notes. About 300, all of different ranks and not really organized. Tsunade ground her teeth. It was like trying to get a herd of cats to move in the same direction. No one knew where anyone else was, squads were split up. Many ninja had hurried to the fighting on their own initiative, some were heading here to the tower, a good many would still be fighting in the stadium including some of her top jonins, some had been ambushed by the enemy squads that were running wild, and some were probably running about like chickens with their heads cut off. She was sure she still had the forces to deal with this, especially now that the one tail was gone but creating order out of chaos was proving frustratingly slow. Find someone to start organizing the troops we have and then send 200 of them to help Danzo. Until she had more of her forces ready she had to be careful how many she sent where. Who do you want in charge of that? Shizun asked. Kusina, Kakashi, or Asuma, but since none of them are here who do I have on hand? Perhaps I can be of assistance. A comforting voice spoke. She saw a very welcome figure enter her office dressed in black ninja clothing and helmet. Old man, you have no idea how happy I am to see you right now. He nodded. I can only imagine. I am here to offer my assistance in any way possible. Just how can I help? Go to the plaza and start getting our troops in order. Then pick out 200, assign a commander, and send them to support Danzo. She saw him smile. Not you though. I want you to stay right here until I'm ready to lead the counterattack. Sarutobi chuckled that his old student had been able to read him so easily. All right, I'll begin immediately. He left her office. Finally a good piece of luck. What about the clans, have we heard back from them? Tsunade asked. Shizun shook her head. Nothing new. We have not been able to reach Hyuga. Mikoto has sent us 8 members of her clan but another dozen were at the stadium. Inyazuka and Abarame are sending some members while some have already gone into battle. As for Nara, Yamanksa, and Akimichi, they are also sending some members, but the clan heads have already gone to fight. Well, I hope they have their usual good luck. XXXXXXXXXX. Orochimaru chuckled and then laughed. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had so much fun. Ku, well, I must admit your team's reputation was well deserved. Even with my sherry-nan you kept me entertained for a full 5 minutes. How did you get the sherry-nan? Nara Shikaku choked out. They had taken on Orochimaru and lost. Looking to his right he saw the bodies of his 2 comrades and best friends. I am a genius and have found a jutsu that allows me to possess the bodies of others. Orochimaru said happily. Shikaku chuckled. Well, I suppose you really are a genius then. Too bad you're also such a complete cold-hearted bastard. Orochimaru laughed and added just a little bit of pressure to the sword that was resting against his neck. You really have no fear of death, do you? Shikaku took a last look up into the sky. It was beautiful and filled with clouds. I love you, Yoshino, please forgive me for making you a widow. I love you, son, please forgive for making you grow up so soon. I am ninja. So you are. Any last words? Shikaku smiled. Last words would be troublesome. Orochimaru laughed and drove the sword into the man's throat. He'd honestly forgotten just how entertaining his fellow leaf nins could be. He swallowed the sword again and climbed back onto his snake. It was proving to be a wonderful day. XXXXXXXXXX. The girl was pleading. Please no, don't. Her back was against a brick alley wall and the ninja had a grip on both her arms. His face and arms were covered with strange black tattoos. Please don't do this. Seikon smiled, he did like playing with them first. Oh sweetheart, you should be thanking me. You and everyone else in this stinking rat's nest are going to die today. But at least you get to have a little bit of fun first. The girl was crying and desperately trying to push him away. You know you really are a piece of dog s and #T. Teiwei shouted at him. Seikon sent her a smug little smile. What? She's going to die no matter what. This way she gets to live an extra 5 minutes and I'll even make it clean. 5 minutes? More like 30 F and #King seconds. Kidomaru laughed. You talking from experience? F and #KU. Jirobo sighed. Please watch your language. She sent him a dirty look. Seikon, what if Kimimaro or Lord Orochimaru find out about this? Lord Orochimaru wouldn't care and Kimimaro isn't here right now. Teiwei looked at her teammate with real hatred. UF and #King as and #ol. We have to kill her, you don't have to do this. Seikon laughed as he gently touched her cheek and saw her whimper. I don't need orders for this. He smiled at the girl. Don't struggle, it'll all be over soon. He was leaning in when he suddenly froze. What's that? He and the other members all felt it, an unbelievable chakra brimming with a sense of evil. And a killer intent that impressed even them. A gigantic arm that seemed to be made of red chakra reached down and grabbed Seikon. Hey! He screamed. He struggled but couldn't move an inch. He was quickly lifted from the ground up to the edge of the roof. There he was brought face to face with a boy surrounded by red chakra. He had red eyes that burned with hate. Naruto was as ready to kill an enemy kunoichi as he was any male ninja. But there were 2 women in his life who he loved and adored. Seeing what was about to happen, he had imagined something similar happening to one of them. The result was a killer intent that made Seikon want to wet himself. Naruto gave the older boy a savage and feral grin. Don't struggle, a second red chakra arm took hold of him. It'll all be over soon. With that he tore the would-be rapist in half. Holy S and #T. He killed Seikon. Teiwei and the other members immediately activated their second-level curse seals. Naruto noted the changes as he tossed the body aside like a sack of garbage. I guess I'm not the only special one here. He leapt down to the street. We're the Sound Four. We're the elite warriors of Lord Orochimaru. Kidomaru told him. Naruto smiled. You know, I was thinking how elite your friend was as I tore him apart. Naruto was enjoying himself. He wanted to kill now. Not simply out of duty or a desire to protect. He was feeling a simple bloodlust. In the middle of battle he did not stop to consider that this feeling was not normal for him. Normally he had to shut his heart off to be able to kill. But now he was relishing it. This was the longest he had worn the red chakra. Kidomaru opened his mouth and spat out a thick stream of webbing. In short order Naruto was in a cocoon. Die. He chewed again and this time he spat out a long gold-colored rock-hard mucus. It struck the cocoon and simply broke off. 4 chakra arms tore the webbing aside. Then 2 came together in a clap and crushed Kidomaru. Jirobo was feeling real terror for the first time in his life. He was a pretty strong in close fighter but he wasn't getting anywhere near that monster. He cast a jutsu and slammed both hands into the ground. Out of the street a dome of earth rose and surrounded Naruto. Jirobo let out a sigh of relief. All right, we're safe now. You sure? Teiwei eyed the dome nervously. She could still feel his chakra and his killer intent. Jirobo nodded. No one has ever. The dome exploded and they were both forced to duck. If you're going to fight me, can't you at least come up with an original jutsu? A red arm shot out and caught Jirobo's head. It snapped back until there was a nice audible crack. Teiwei leapt back and began playing her flute feverishly. She was the last surviving member of the Sound Four and she wasn't loving her odds of living much longer. Who the hell is this bastard? We were warned about Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Sarutobi. Why didn't we get a warning about him? She cast her most powerful jutsu and summoned her 3 doki. 3 large deformed demons stood before her. Naruto laughed. Well, that at least is original. Arrogant prick. She altered her tune a bit. Her doki opened their mouths and 3 ethereal snakes with multiple mouths began to drift towards him. Naruto made no effort to avoid them. And when each one latched on and bit, he gasped to see the red chakra dissipate and fade where they bit him. Ha! So you can be hurt? Teiwei shouted. I guess I can. Okay, valuable lesson, some things can get through the red chakra. I'm not invulnerable. But don't get happy. He sent a red fist crashing into the chest of each demon summons and knocked them over. The ethereal snakes let go and he rushed forward with all his speed. Before her doki could get back up, he had her. He put his own right hand around her throat. With his left he snatched away the flute and then snapped it in half. The doki vanished in puffs of smoke. Teiwei clawed at his right arm with all her strength. It was like a small child trying to pull up an oak tree. She tried to curse him but couldn't even breathe. This is F and hashtag king it. Naruto felt the urge to kill her. But he was in control. He loosened his grip a bit to let her breathe. You want to live? Her first impulse was to scream, F and K, yeah, I want to live. But didn't think that would be a good idea when her life was literally in the palm of his hand. Yes. Then get out of this village and don't come back. If I see your face again, you're dead. And then he let her go. Teiwei quickly backed away from him as she rubbed her bruised neck. Why? Is it because I'm a woman? No, it's because you tried to stop what was about to happen. For that I'll show you just a little bit of mercy. Now get out of my sight. She nodded and fled as fast as she could. She knew there would be no going home to Sound. Her lord would not forgive her abandoning the battle no matter her reasons. F and hashtag K it. I'd rather be a missing nin than dead. Naruto took a quick look to see if the girl in the alley was still there, but she was long gone. He hoped she would have enough sense to head for the cliff shelters. He leapt up to the roof of the nearest building. As he got there he took a look at his left hand, it was starting to feel a little numb. It didn't hurt at all and he could still use it, but he could tell something was off. I'm starting to reach my limit. Damn it, I have to do more to help while I still have this power. On top of the roof he looked about. He could hear and see explosions and fighting coming from two directions. To the south where the gate used to be and to the east where he could see a gigantic golden and black snake leveling buildings. The fight to the east looked a lot more serious, especially with that monster. But the fighting to the south was a lot closer to him. He looked at his left hand again. I'll do as much as I can. I don't know how much longer I can hold on to it. His decision made, he moved south towards the sound of the fighting. XXXXXXXXXXX. Shizun ran into her office. It was a madhouse as aides and Umbu rushed in and out to carry out her orders. Lady Tsunade. 8 members of the Hyuga clan have just arrived. Tsunade smiled, they would be a major help. Did Hayashi bring them here? Shizun smiled. No, not Hayashi. Niji walked in without his crutches but with a noticeable limp. He offered the Hokage a respectful bow. Hokage-sama, please forgive me. When the phone lines were all cut and it became clear we were under attack, I thought it likely that you would be using the Tower Plaza as a staging point. I was able to convince some of the cadet branch members to come here. Niji, you have no idea how much you've just helped me and the village. Thank you. He bowed again. I am glad to have helped. He let out a sigh. I realize I can no longer fight, but is there something I can do? Tsunade nodded immediately. You have a sharp mind and I can use that. Go down to the plaza and report to the third Hokage. You can assist him in organizing our forces. Hi Hokage-sama. And Niji, when this is all over I want you to come see me. I have something I want to discuss with you later. He nodded and limped out of her office. An Umbu captain entered with a radio communicator. Hokage-sama, Patrol Squad 5 has confirmed that the academy students are now safely at the cliff shelters. As per your instructions, I have Team Naruto's leader available on the general Umbu frequency. Good. She took the radio communicator. She was relieved to know they had made it safely to the shelters. She just wanted to talk to Naruto for a minute to be satisfied he and the others were safe. Well, safe as possible in a war zone. Naruto, are you and your team all right? There was a short pause. Oh Hinata. Are you and the others all right? She nodded. Let me talk to Naruto for a minute. Well, the original obviously, why would I want to talk to a clone? Her lips came down in a frown. What do you mean he's not there? Where is he exactly? As she listened, her face darkened dangerously. He did what? Hinata, what radio frequency is he using? Yes, oh yes, he is in trouble. You and the rest of your squad stay where you are and carry out my order and protect those students. Out. She flicked off the radio and reset the frequency. Damn it Naruto, I don't have time to babysit you now. Is something wrong, Lady Tsunade? Shizun asked worriedly. You might say that. After doing an incredible job of defeating an enemy force that was attacking the academy, he felt the need to go off on his own and play hero. Shizun gasped. He's running through the village alone. Tsunade nodded. But not for long. She turned the radio communicator back onto the new frequency. Naruto. This is the Hokage report in right now. She switched to the receive setting and waited a moment. There was nothing but static. Damn it Naruto, I know you're running around the battle zone all alone, now answer me. And this time when she switched her radio to receive, she got a reply, though not one she wanted to hear. XXXXXXXXXX. They had just cleared section C15. Kusina estimated it wouldn't take much longer to finish securing the stadium. As they cleared each section, she added more Leaf Nins to her force. She had about 150 now and they were clearing the last quarter of the stadium. As they headed towards D1, she noticed Gabriella had picked up a sword. Before she could comment on that, she saw her take on a sound nin with it. She performed a perfect thrust and killed him. Kusina was stunned at the obvious skill and ease. "Gabriella?" Kusina called. "Why didn't you tell me you'd had sword training?" She grinned a bit embarrassed. "Well, actually sensei, this is the first time I've ever even picked up a sword." "What? But your attack was perfectly executed." "Well, I've been watching you this whole time with my Sherry non-active and I've been able to copy all the moves I've seen." Kusina shook her head. "I can't believe I didn't think of that. But I don't want you to fight with a sword anymore, rely on Konao and jutsus." "But why not, sensei? After seeing what you can do with one, I want to use a sword too." Kusina smiled. "Well, that's very flattering. But for the time being, while we're in real combat, you should rely on the fighting style you're used to. There is a lot more to sword fighting than just the moves. You don't know anything about creating combinations or in working the proper forms. The middle of a battle is not the place to start experimenting with a whole new fighting style." Gabriella nodded. It made sense, but she had discovered that she liked the feel of a sword in her hand. She also wanted to fight like Kusina did. "Sensei, when the fighting is done, will you teach me how to use a sword?" Kusina smiled and nodded. "I'd be happy to, but we're not quite done here yet." Kakashi was standing nearby when his radio sparked to life. "Naruto. This is the Hokage report in right now." Kakashi chuckled. "It sounds like Naruto is in trouble with the Hokage." Kusina sighed. "Just so long as he is not in trouble with the enemy." The Hokage's voice came through again. "Damn it, Naruto, I know you're running around the battle zone all alone, now answer me." "What? He's alone?" "Kakashi, what frequency are you on?" Kusina demanded. 1550. He replied. Kusina switched to the proper frequency. "Tsunade. What do you mean Naruto is all alone? What happened?" Back in the tower, Tsunade slapped her forehead. Of course Kakashi's radio would be set to the same frequency as his students, and I'll bet Kusina was standing right next to him. "Alright Kusina, here is what I know." Tsunade quickly related the information she had. "So right now I am trying to get in touch with him to order him back to the shelters and his original mission." "I see." Kusina said. "Naruto. If you can hear me, reply immediately or I swear I will ground you for a month." She shouted. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto grimaced and shut his radio off. Even heading into more life or death combat, he found himself more worried about his mom being mad at him. XXXXXXXXXX. Alright, either he's turned his radio off or he's deliberately not answering. Tsunade finally said. "Kusina, what is your status?" Kusina let out a breath and hoped her son would not take too many risks. "I expect the stadium to be completely secured within the next 10 minutes. I should have at least 150 ninja available, many of them of Jonin and Chunin rank. Alright, get done there as soon as you can and then get here. XXXXXXXXXXX. As they stormed into the next section of the stadium, Gabriella got a quick word in with her teammate. Naruto ignored a direct order from the Hokage and went out to fight alone? So is he that brave or that stupid? Haku gave her a serious look. Naruto always does what he thinks is right. He will do anything to protect people who are precious to him, including disobeying the Hokage and going to fight alone. So it would seem. Though if he saw it as necessary, I am not surprised. You know, the more I hear about him, the more I like him." She sent Haku a mischievous grin. "You better be careful or he just may steal me away from you." "Huh?" He looked worried. Laughing, she dived into the fight. XXXXXXXXXX. The fighting in the stadium was soon over as they met another force of about 40 leaf nins being led by Ryuki. "What are you doing here?" Kusina asked. "This is where my clan seats were. We have been fighting this entire time." Of the 40 ninjas he led, a dozen were of the Uchiha clan. Ryuki noted his daughter was there as well. Gabriella actually saw his eyes leave her and suddenly come back to her. Gabriella, have you achieved the Sharingan? She nodded once. I have, father. And there it suddenly was, like the sun coming out from behind dark clouds. Her father smiled at her. Her father noticed her. All the Uchihas were smiling at her, they were all noticing her. Now, my daughter, I am so proud of you. I knew you could do it. She stared at him. Liar. You gave up on me a long time ago. Thank you, father. She ground out. It didn't seem right to have a family argument in the midst of so many dead. When this is over, dear, we will have a celebration in your honor, Ryuki declared, and every single Uchiha with him nodded enthusiastically. Gabriella knew there'd be a celebration. The Uchiha celebrated the acquiring of the Sharingan more than they did a birth or a wedding. So far as the clan was concerned, it was a source of greater joy and pride. Her only reply was a weak smile. I don't believe this. I finally get my dream and it doesn't mean anything to me. They don't care about me, not really. They just care about my acquiring the Sharingan. Gabriella compared her father's treatment of her to her sensei's. Her father had given up on her, washed his hands of her once he thought she was too old to acquire it. Who she was and what she did meant nothing to him. Kusina, on the other hand, had stood up to the Hokage for her sake. Kusina had given her a severe test, but once it was passed she had promised to help her regardless of getting her Sharingan. Her sensei had actually seen her as a person and a kunoichi, rather than as a failure who could not achieve Sharingan. And as Gabriella played these thoughts in her mind, she realized that she cared far more about Kusina's opinion of her than her father's. We have orders from the Hokage to assemble at the tower as soon as the stadium is secure, Kusina said. Let's go. Ryuki did not like taking orders from that woman, but given the circumstances he simply nodded and followed. XXXXXXXXXXX. Back. Pull back. Ibiki shouted. Ninjas began to fall back behind him as he and two squads tossed out Kunao to provide cover. He had lost 2 more men, so he thought he was down to 55. As the Hokage had predicted, the Sand Nins had indeed launched a strong conventional attack. Ibiki knew he didn't have the forces to stop them. He could only slow them a bit and make them pay a price. It was still a lot better than fighting the One Tail. This at least was just a desperate situation rather than mass suicide. That was when he felt a tremendous chakra approaching from behind. Have they gotten behind us? One of his men yelled. Hold your positions. Ibiki yelled. Let's see who or what this is. And as he watched, he saw a figure surrounded by red chakra running towards them on all fours. The outline of the visible chakra looked like an animal's. He saw that there were even 2 distinct tails. As the figure approached, someone threw a kunao at him. Hold it. I think I know who this is. Who? Namikaze Naruto, the Yandame's son. Ibiki said quietly. That answer did not relieve the men of their fears. And sure enough, when the figure came to a halt, Ibiki could see that it was Naruto. Even with his demonic eyes and fangs, there could be no mistake. The boy was still on all fours and seemed to be breathing heavy. Naruto knew he was coming to his limit. His back ached and both hands felt numb. He was huffing air and felt tired. He'd never felt any of those things with the red chakra before. He knew he didn't have much more time with the power. He was determined to use it before it ran out. He looked up. I remember you from the exams. You're Ibiki. Ibiki nodded. And you are Namikaze Naruto. Did the Hokage send you to support us? Not really, Naruto replied. I sent myself. He looked tiredly at the street in front of them. There were a few dead bodies lying out there and he could see some movement about half a block away. Are there a lot of enemy ninja right in front of us? Ibiki nodded. At least a few hundred, and they all seem to be very skilled. Good. Naruto said with relief. Good. Ibiki looked at him. Yeah, I would hate to waste it. Before Ibiki could ask what he meant, Naruto leapt away from the cover and out into the open street. Has he got a death wish? One of the other ninja asked. With that sort of chakra? I doubt it. Ibiki said. XXXXXXXXXX. Temari was part of a 30-man unit pushing down a side street about 5 blocks away from the main effort. This was a flank attack that would hopefully catch the Leaf Nins by surprise. The attack was going well so far, even though the Leaf Nins were resisting as hard as they could. Maybe they could make this all work out in the end. Do you feel that? A sand nin near her froze. Everyone could feel it. What kind of chakra is that? Temari asked. What do we do? Baki was in command and gave them all a harsh look. We continue the mission. The way he said it, there was no other possible course of action. Despite wondering about the strange chakra, they pressed on. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto got right in the middle of the street and then just stopped, deliberately making himself a target. A rain of konao and shuriken came down on him, quickly followed by konao with explosive notes. In the middle of this, he actually sat down and closed his eyes. Why am I so tired? I had plenty of energy just a couple minutes ago. With his eyes closed, he pictured himself in a grass field filled with plump rabbits. He imagined chasing them and devouring them, but their flesh was sweet. He heard a weird clicking sound and opened his eyes. There was a ridiculous-looking puppet flying towards him, spitting out konao and needles. He frowned. Without even bothering to stand, he sent out one red hand to grab and crush it. Are you going to fight me with toys? He called out, mocking. In response, a ninja with a veil over his face jumped out and cast a jutsu. Wind scythe technique. Immediately the air about him lashed out towards Naruto. Naruto was mildly impressed. He knew this jutsu. It was an A-rank wind attack jutsu designed for a single opponent. He could sense the wind buffet around him, but the wind blades could not penetrate the red chakra. It was time. Naruto stood up. With his enhanced sense, he guessed there were maybe 300 ninja packed in the blocks just ahead of him. Perfect. That was a pretty good attack. I happen to be a wind type too. Let me show you one of mine. He began casting. XXXXXXXXXX. The Kazekage was the most powerful ninja in his village and knew just about every wind jutsu there was. He immediately recognized the hand signs. Take cover, he shouted. But it was already too late. Naruto formed the final sign. Kamikaze no Jutsu. Divine Wind. The air before Naruto seemed to darken and grow heavy. Then it exploded forward with hurricane force, ripping and slicing everything before it. Brick, stone, wood, and flesh were cut apart. The buildings in front of him were flattened as whole chunks of masonry were torn out and turned into lethal projectiles. Those who tried to run were caught by the hurricane winds and killed as they were either torn apart or crushed by the flying debris. Those who took cover were killed as their cover was ripped away, leaving them exposed to the killing wind. Those who tried to cast a defensive wind jutsu were killed as their jutsu was simply overwhelmed by the sheer force of Naruto's. In short, when the winds finally died down, everything and everyone for 500 yards in front of Naruto was gone. Including the Kazekage, Sabaku no Kankuro, and about 300 sand ninjas. Chapter 34, Decision. Hinata was outside the cliff shelters with the rest of Team Naruto. There was a steady stream of refugees flowing into the shelters. Along with the academy instructors and a couple dozen other shinobi who had been assigned to assist and guard the shelters. So far there had been no attacks on the shelters themselves, but people were telling horrible stories about sound nin slaughtering helpless civilians. If even half, if even a tenth of what she was hearing was true, then she was glad Naruto had decided to kill those two sound nins. She kept a sharp eye out for more refugees, for any sign of the enemy, and for any sign of Naruto. Actually, there were plenty of signs of Naruto. His clones were all around guarding and helping people reach the shelters. Many people were nervous at the first sight of him and his fierce appearance. But the majority soon seemed grateful to know so many ferocious-looking clones were there to protect them. She let out a sigh. "It's all right, Hinata-chan," Kiba assured her. "Kiba-kun, what do you mean?" Hinata asked. He smiled at her knowingly. "You're worried about Naruto, aren't you?" She nodded. "Don't worry about him, it's Naruto after all. I don't think the ninja's been born that can stop him." Hinata looked out at the village again. There were fires and smoke and the crash of buildings. As she listened, she heard the sounds of a storm and some buildings falling near the south end of the village. "I'm sure he's all right, but I can't help but worry," she said quietly. "Why did he do it?" Kiba shook his head. "Because he's Naruto." Hinata nodded. "Please be safe, Naruto-kun." XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade nodded to the ninja assembled before her. She had sent 200 ninja under Asuma to help Ibiki. Now she would lead the remaining 700 to deal with her old friend. By her side were Sarutobi, Kushina, and Kakashi. Hayashi had finally arrived and would be leading the contingent from his house. Shizun would remain in charge of things at the tower while she led her forces. "All right," she called out to them. "These bastards have hurt us, but now we return the favor. We're freeing our village of these murderous bastards. Leave ninjas. Follow me." She leapt and her soldiers leapt after her, eager to fight. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tamari got to her feet quickly. She and the rest of the force had been 5 blocks west of where that jutsu had been aimed, and just the fringe of it had knocked them all down. Standing up, she could see that entire buildings that had been standing just a minute ago were completely gone. "What was that?" she screamed. Baki looked around. "All right, change of plans, follow me." He headed for the large chakra signature, determined to find out what had just happened. XXXXXXXXXXX. Pain. He howled and dropped to his knees. Every muscle in his body seemed to be cramping at once. Naruto thrust his hands into the concrete and tore into it. Oh, it hurt. He sucked in air, trying to breathe. He'd reached it, his limit. Looking up, he saw some more sand ninjas. They immediately took cover as Ibiki and the others behind him let loose with some kunao. They still wanted to fight. Despite the pain, he shut his eyes and tried to concentrate. There was still fighting going on here and at the other end of the village. In spite of the cramps biting down into him, he thought there was just one more thing he could do. One more, just one more, and I'm done. He could sense the red chakra was trying to slip away, but he held onto it through sheer force of will. He had to hold onto it for just one more jutsu. His hands didn't want to work, the fingers didn't want to bend to form the signs. But slowly and carefully he finally managed to form them. He put all the chakra he could and cast his last jutsu. He felt the chakra throb and fight like a living thing against him. But it worked. And with that he fell face forward into the street and the red chakra left him. His eyes closed immediately and he became unconscious. The last thing he heard was a deeper version of his own voice. "It's okay, we'll take care of everything." XXXXXXXXXX. She rode atop Katsuya, the Queen Slug summon, with Sarutobi, Kushina, and Kakashi. As the individual ninjas behind her fanned out to take on individual sound ninjas, Katsuya went for the large snake being ridden by Orochimaru. "Use your acid, Katsuya." Tsunade spoke. "Yes, my lady." Katsuya spat a stream of acid. Orochimaru leapt away even as the snake was struck and dispelled. He landed on a nearby roof where he was quickly joined by Tsunade and her compatriots. He smiled at them. "Well, now, this does feel like a reunion. So good to see you again, Sarutobi-sensei, Tsunade, Kakashi." He looked at the woman with the extremely long red hair and sword. "I don't believe we have met. I am the legendary Orochimaru. I am Namikaze Kushina," she said tightly. Orochimaru laughed. Minato's wife? Well, I can see why he fell in love with you. Shut up. Kusina ground out. Tsunade focused chakra into her fist. Orochimaru. Why did you do this? He laughed and shut his eyes. Because I wanted revenge on all those who betrayed me. Betrayed you? Sarutobi shouted. You were murdering and experimenting on your own fellow villagers. Yes, he opened his eyes to reveal the Sharingan. And see what it has gained me. You have the Sharingan. Tsunade exclaimed. That's right. With my genius and through experimentation I have found the key to immortal life. I can take possession of the bodies of others and gain their abilities. I will never grow old and I will never die. I will learn every single jutsu that exists and be the greatest genius this world has ever known. I will live forever. How can you live forever when you're going to die right here and now? Tsunade rushed at him. Kakashi formed a lighting blade and charged in as did Kusina. Sarutobi hung back. Laughing, he avoided her punches with ease, his body able to bend and twist with unnatural ease and grace. He struck her viciously in the stomach and then knocked her down. With a single hand he caught Kakashi by the wrist and held him there, before throwing him off the roof. Kusina performed the dance of the rose and aimed for the bastard's head. He dodged and moved, avoiding her blade with ease. He snapped a punch that caught her square in the face and sent her flying. He laughed. I have adapted this body to give it great speed, strength, and agility. With the Sharingan to read your movements you have no hope against me. He opened up his mouth and pulled out a sword. I will enjoy this. Sarutobi completed a last hand sign. Dome of Fate technique. A large dome formed around the two of them, leaving Tsunade and a recently returned Kakashi looking in at them. Orochimaru experimentally pressed against the dome and found it quite solid. He turned to Sarutobi with a grin. What are you up to, old man? Sarutobi spoke grimly as he worked through hand signs. The dome will not hold long, but it will be enough. You are my responsibility and my shame, Orochimaru. I will not allow you to cause any more deaths. He completed the last hand sign. Shiki Fujin. Reaper Death Seal, I could have ended your evil long ago, but in my moment of weakness I failed. All the evil you have done since that day falls upon me. Now I shall atone for my failure by ending all of your ambitions. Orochimaru could feel the air grow colder around him, and his Sharingan showed him something standing behind his old teacher. Old fool. No one can end my ambitions. What sort of jutsu is this? Sarutobi hesitated for just a moment until he could feel the Shinigami reach into him and the seal form on his belly. He smiled sadly at Orochimaru, who had once been his pride and joy. This is the jutsu that defeated the Kyuubi. It put an end to the Nine Tails' destruction, and it will end yours as well. Fool. I don't know what you think is going to happen here, but I'm not the one who is going to die. He rushed at him with his sword. He dove with the sword straight out, ready to adjust depending on how Sarutobi dodged. To his own surprise though, Sarutobi never moved and he was able to put his sword into his chest. But even as he did so, he felt his body turn to ice. He felt his superb and powerful body grow suddenly weak. Why didn't you dodge? Sarutobi coughed up some blood. To work this seal the caster must give up his own life. I didn't bother to dodge because there's no point. I am going to die anyway. What have you done to me? He gasped. What is this weakness? Sarutobi coughed up some more blood. What you feel is your soul being pulled from your body. Make your final peace if you can, my foolish student. For rest assured you are dying this day. Never. He gritted his teeth and tried to drive the sword even further into Sarutobi's chest. XXXXXXXXXX. What the hell? Ibiki whispered. XXXXXXXXXX. What the hell? Baki gasped. All through the street in front of him 500 clones had appeared. They had slit red eyes and fangs, but far more troubling, they had swords drawn. Two of the clones immediately grabbed hold of the original Naruto and pulled him out of the danger zone. 20 clones stayed with the original to guard him. The others shouted and rushed forward, performing the dance of the cherry blossoms, the dance of the sakura. They're just shadow clones, we can deal with them easily. Baki leapt backwards to gain some room and tossed some kunao. His statement was both right and wrong. These were shadow clones, but they would not be easy to deal with. What neither Baki nor Naruto nor anyone else knew was that by creating them with the Kyuubi's chakra they had one tiny but oh so important difference. In the future Naruto would call these his red chakra clones, and they would be a special weapon because of their difference. A sand nin swiftly threw 3 shurikens at 3 clones that were closing on him. All 3 struck home. But the clones kept right on coming. The ninja died screaming as 3 swords stabbed into him. Baki also struck 3 clones with kunao only to see them keep coming. Temari leapt beside him and swung her fan great wind dance. The winds caught the clones and sent them spiraling away. But there were more coming. Temari thought about calling her summon, but the clones were in among her own people, she would have to slaughter them too to use it. What's going on? Shouldn't they be dispelled when they're hit? Baki nodded. According to what I know about shadow clones. As he watched the 3 clones he'd hit landed roughly but got back up, all still with kunao in their chests. As they began coming back at him they finally dispelled in puffs of smoke. That's it? Baki turned to his student. These shadow clones can still be dispelled, but they have a delay of perhaps 30 seconds. He and Temari both paled at that. What that tiny little delay meant was that even if they were hit multiple times they would keep coming for another 30 seconds, which was plenty of time for them to reach you with those swords. As Baki watched he saw his men being cut down by clones riddled with shuriken and kunao. These clones would be too much for them. We're done. Baki said to himself. What was that, sensei? Temari asked as she launched another wind attack to keep some more of the clones at bay. He turned to her. I said we were done. I'm calling a retreat. Baki, you can't. The Kaze cage will have your head for that. Temari said. Temari, the Kaze cage is dead, along with most of our forces. You can't be sure of that. He might. He is dead, Temari. If he were alive he would be right here trying to rally his forces. He is gone and it looks like I am senior on the field now. He took a deep breath. Retreat. Fall back. Retreat. Temari was stunned, but she did her part using her wind jutsus to try and cover others as they pulled back. XXXXXXXXXXX. Ibiki shouted. Naruto. Stop. Let them go. Naruto had been going after the retreating sand nins. Most of the clones stopped momentarily but stared at Ibiki. Are you crazy? Several said at once. Why should I let them get away? They've fled the battlefield and are no longer a threat. Ibiki pointed eastward. But we're still needed there. Let them go for now. We can always deal with them another day if we have to. But the village needs us over there to deal with Orochimaru's forces. That is our priority. The Narutos frowned and one spoke up, expressing what they were all thinking. I really don't want to let them get away, but I guess you're right. With that they began moving to the east end of the village. XXXXXXXXXX. Old man, what the hell are you doing? Tsunade smashed her chakra-enhanced fist into the dome to no effect. Drop the jutsu and let us help you. There's something going on in there. Kakashi said. He had his Sharingan exposed. I know. Tsunade shouted in frustration. That bastard has a sword through his chest. No, Kakashi said. There is some sort of sealing going on, but I can't tell exactly what. Maybe this is some sort of plan on Sarutobi's part. Kushina offered. What sort of plan includes letting your enemy stab you through the chest? She began to pound on the dome with renewed vigor. Sarutobi. XXXXXXXXXX. Orochimaru struggled to hold on to his life force. Tsunade wants to help you, old man. He gasped. Why don't you drop the jutsu and let her? Sarutobi coughed up some more blood. It would make no difference, and I will not put the Hokage in danger needlessly. He smiled weakly. It seems I am at the end of my strength. In that case, will you please die and let me get on with destroying this wretched village? No, Orochimaru. Though it seems I am not strong enough to pull your soul completely from your body, I can still put an end to your ambitions. Suddenly what had been a fuzzy image cleared, and Orochimaru could see a terrifying figure standing behind Sarutobi wielding a blade. What is that? Orochimaru called out in fear. What you see is the Shinigami that I summoned here. Now you will face your punishment. As Sarutobi spoke, the arm holding the blade fell. No. Orochimaru howled. The blade cut into his life force, and the part representing his arms was drawn into Sarutobi's belly. Seal. With that, the jutsu was completed, and the Shinigami began to devour the old man's soul. My arms. Both his arms fell limp to his side. With horror he watched the skin turn black. What have you done? Sarutobi smiled victoriously. He was at peace. At long last he had atoned for his terrible mistake so long ago. I have ended your ambitions, Orochimaru. Your hands and arms are now useless to you. You can no longer make hand signs, and so can no longer work ninjutsu. Your plan to destroy the Leaf Village has failed. Orochimaru could only glower at him. Sarutobi felt the last of his life slipping away. I regret only that I could not take you with me, but let us meet again one day in the afterlife. Those were the last words of the man who had been the third Hokage of Konohagakure. And as he fell over, Orochimaru stared hatefully at his peaceful expression. Damn you, old man! Orochimaru cursed. With Sarutobi's death, the dome was immediately released. Tsunade and the others rushed in. Get away from him! Tsunade screamed. Gladly. He leapt away. You're welcome to his rotting corpse, you old witch! Orochimaru fled. Sensei. Tsunade knelt down beside him and tried desperately to do the impossible. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sarutobi was dead. Tsunade could do nothing but weep. Kushina and Kakashi stayed with her and tried to console as best they could. All around them the battle still raged. Orochimaru had fled but did not bother to call a general retreat. He wanted as much of Konoha to burn as possible. Determined Leaf Nins were trying to dig them out and slowly pushing them back. To aid them, reinforcements arrived led by Asuma and Ibiki. Asuma's force of 200 had actually arrived on the scene just as Ibiki was heading to the other battle site. Along with the forces they led were over 300 shadow clones still eager to fight. Kushina spotted some of them and ran to the roof's edge. Naruto. One of the clones heard her and detoured to the roof. Seeing his appearance, both Kushina and Tsunade were taken aback. Naruto was a little disappointed by the reaction but understood. Mom, Godmother, it's okay when I use the red chakra, it changes how I look. Kushina got over it and held out her arms. Naruto gladly ran to her and hugged her. Naruto-kun, why did you disobey the Hokage and go out all alone without anyone to watch your back? Kushina asked as she held her son. Well, Mom, I didn't think I was breaking her orders. I made a bunch of shadow clones to help my team keep the students safe. I just decided that with my red chakra I could be a bigger help fighting. Tsunade got up and looked at him unhappily. That was not your decision to make, Naruto. I expect my ninjas to carry out my orders, especially during an emergency. And don't give me any nonsense about shadow clones. We both know you should have stayed with your team. But Godmother, I'm a shadow clone. I know that, but since the real Naruto isn't here for me to yell at, you'll do. Besides, he'll get the memory when you dispel. Tsunade said. Where is the real Naruto? Kushina asked. He's alright, Mom. Naruto assured. He's suffering from chakra exhaustion, so 20 clones brought him back to the house. They'll guard him. Tsunade frowned to hear that. You see, you ended up unconscious. You should have obeyed my orders. Actually, I am very glad he did not. Ibiki landed on the roof. Ibiki, what are you doing here? Who is fighting the sand ninjas? Hokage-sama, the sand ninjas have been routed, entirely thanks to Naruto. He single-handedly not only drove them back but killed most of them. If he had not been there, we would still be trying to hold them back instead of being here to reinforce. Tsunade, Kushina, and Kakashi were all looking at him. You single-handedly broke an invading army? Kakashi asked. That sounds like the sort of thing your father did during the Third Great Ninja War. Kushina said seriously. Tsunade let out a sigh. Well, Naruto, if you really did shut down one of the fronts by yourself, then I suppose I can't get upset with you, especially since the academy students were kept safe. Naruto looked to Kushina. You're not mad either, are you, Mom? Kushina smiled. No, son, I'm very proud of you. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. Good, so you're not really going to ground me for a month? Kakashi groaned. Kushina and Tsunade suddenly darkened their expressions. Did I say something wrong? You were listening. Tsunade declared. I ordered you to report in and you deliberately chose not to. I asked you to answer and you didn't. Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? Kushina said. Kakashi just shook his head silently. You need to work on being a little more deceptive, Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. The enemy sound ninjas were quickly routed when Naruto's red chakra clones arrived. The sight of Naruto coming at them, even with Kunao sticking out of his chest, began to sap their will. Eventually the surviving sound ninjas fled just as the sand nins had done. And as they fled, they talked to each other about a certain red-eyed, sword-wielding, demonic-looking ninja. They didn't know his name, so they called him the Red-Eyed Demon, the Leaf Demon, or the Killing Demon. Among the citizens and ninja of Konoha, stories also spread quickly about the one who had killed hundreds of sand ninjas with a single jutsu. Stories were spread about the ninja whose incredible power had turned the tide. They knew who he was, of course, and where his awesome power came from. Some still feared him, but most saw him as a hero, like his father. But even those who saw him as a hero began to call him by a new name. Before long he would be best known by this name by both friend and foe. Just as Namikaze Minato became the Yellow Flash of Konoha, Namikaze Naruto would also become the Demon of Konoha. Chapter 35, From the Ashes. He opened his eyes beneath a glorious blue sky. He sat up in a grass field full of flowers and felt no pain. And there, not too far away, was what looked like an old ruined fortress. He stood and felt no pain at all. He sighed and began to jog towards the gate that he knew was there. He stood before the closed gate with the single seal upon it. Well, I'm here, he called out. Two gigantic red eyes and a long row of teeth appeared behind the iron gate. Kneel before me. No. You dare? Unlike last time, I'm not a scared kid with no idea who you are. Who do you think I am, mortal worm? You're the nine-tailed fox that my father defeated. The Kyuubi roared in fury. Howl all you want, you bastard fox. The fact remains. Show me respect or I will make you regret it. No, Naruto repeated. You're the prisoner and I'm the jailer. I'll show you no respect. You took away my father and because of you a lot of people hate me. You've already done me all the harm you can. He saw the teeth form a fax grin. If you believe that, you are a fool. Oh really? He deliberately stood within arm's length of the gate. He spread his arms out to either side, exposing himself to attack. Then why don't you punish me right here and now? The Kyuubi's roar made his ears hurt, but he smiled nonetheless. Just as I thought. I've read up on seals over the last 4 years and talked to Granddad about it. You can't control me or cause me any direct harm, not unless I allow it. The red eyes flattened a bit, and though he couldn't see it, Naruto had a mental image of fox ears being pinned back. I can deny you my chakra. Naruto shrugged. Yes you can, but if you do that it becomes more likely that I die sooner rather than later. Is that what you want? After all, when I die you die. The fox growled. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I will never die. Oh yes you will. Naruto declared. When my time finally comes I'll take you into death with me. It will be the final service I perform for my village. The Kyuubi growled at him and Naruto let out a sigh. But I'm not looking to hurry that day along. Instead of threatening me, why don't you help me? The demon eyed him for a time. Then chuckled. Let me guess. You want more power? Naruto frowned, he didn't like to think the Kyuubi could read him so easy. Yes I do. The Kyuubi laughed. Tear away my seal and I will give you more power than you ever dreamed of. No thanks. Naruto eyed him. How about instead you give me just a little more and let me use it without feeling like I'm about to die? The Kyuubi eyed him once more. I'll give you a little more power. As for the pain you feel, there is no avoiding that. Your human body is simply too frail to stand the strain for long. As you grow older and use the power more often you will build greater endurance and be able to hold the power longer. But you will always have a limit. Isn't there anything I can do about that? You can tear off my seal. No. Then accept your limits, mortal. Now leave me. Wait. I need to ask. But everything around him faded away. XXXXXXXXXX. He opened his eyes and saw he was in his own bed. Damn rude baka fox. Naruto muttered. Naruto-kun, you're awake. A happy voice called. Hinata jumped into the bed and immediately began to hug him and kiss him. She caught him by surprise. Whoa. Hard to believe Hinata-chan used to be so shy. But he soon had his arms around her and was eagerly returning her kisses. Naruto-kun, she pulled back a bit to catch her breath. Why did you leave me? I wanted to keep you safe. He leaned forward to kiss her but she pulled out of his arms to sit back on the edge of his bed. What's wrong? You're a baka. She said. What? No way. Did my sweet little Hinata-chan just call me a baka? She yelled at him. Baka. 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 I called you a baka, Naruto-kun. Why are you calling me that? Upset, he sat up in the bed. He was a bit embarrassed to see his mom had put him in his bunny pajamas. Because you are one. You don't need to protect me, Naruto-kun. I'm a strong kunoichi and I'm ready to face any danger to stand by your side. But I don't want you to face danger, Hinata-chan. When I think of you getting hurt or worse, I die inside. I couldn't bear to see you hurt. She relented a bit and leaned forward against him and let his arms wrap lovingly around her. I know, Naruto-kun, that's how I feel when I think about you in danger. But as long as we're shinobi there's no avoiding the danger. And I want to face it with you so I can at least be there when you need me. She gave him a firm look. I am Kunoichi of the Leaf, you don't need to shelter me. Instead fight with me and watch my back and I will always do the same for you, Naruto-kun. Now promise me you won't ever try and shield me from danger again. I can't promise you that, Hinata-chan. She pulled out of his arms again. Fine, then no more kisses or hugs until you do. He gawked at her. You wouldn't. She crossed her arms. I don't want to, but I would. He frowned at her. You told me once that all your kisses were for me. They are all for you. I'm not going to start kissing anyone else. But until I get your promise I just won't kiss anyone. He sighed. He knew he could live without her kisses and hugs. But who would want to? All right, Hinata-chan, I promise to never try and shelter you from danger. She gave him a happy smile. Good. She was back in his arms and kissing again. Oh, Naruto-kun, the Hokage asked you to come see her once you felt all right. She checked on you last night to make sure it was just chakra exhaustion. Why don't you get dressed and we'll both go to the tower? Sure. Oh, I'll probably need to check with Kasan first. Why? He looked a bit embarrassed. Well, she sort of told one of my clones I was grounded for 2 months. I'm not allowed out of the estates except for missions and team training. So I need to check. Hey, are you laughing at me? Hinata had both hands over her mouth trying to suppress her giggles. No. You're laughing at me. He began to pout and Hinata couldn't help it, she burst out laughing. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina actually decided to accompany both of them to the tower. As the three of them walked they noticed something. The fact that the crowds parted to give them space was not unusual. The sight of people bowing or cheering was also not strange, a few had always done that. What was surprising was that most of the people on the street were showing him this respect. Rather than the 1 in 10 he was used to, 9 in 10 bowed or cheered him. As they walked he heard again and again people call blessings on him. Is this a dream? Naruto asked. Am I in a hospital bed in a coma or something? It's no dream, Naruto-kun. Hinata said and gave his hand a squeeze. They all know what you did yesterday and they finally see you as a hero. Kushina put a hand on his shoulder and have him a proud smile. This is how it should have always been. And as they walked he also heard a few people call him, demon. Naruto frowned and sighed. Well, I guess not everyone sees me as a hero. He wasn't really disappointed though. This was still a lot better than it had been. Kushina looked thoughtful. She noted that the people who were calling him that were still bowing or cheering. And the tone was not hostile at all. Actually, Naruto-kun, I don't think they're using it as an insult. I think it's your new nickname. Huh? Kushina smiled. Think of it as a family curse. We all get nicknames, Yellow Flash, Red Death, and Demon. Naruto frowned. I don't think I like it. Kushina shrugged. Well, Naruto-kun, I've never really liked mine, but I've learned that once a name takes it's impossible to get rid of. Try and do what I have and make your new name one people respect and maybe fear. He thought about that and slowly nodded. The demon, or maybe the demon of the Leaf Village. It does have a powerful ring to it. He smiled. I kind of liked, Demon of the Mist. I think, Demon of the Leaf might be pretty good. He had a small smile. It should look really cool in all the bingo books. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade welcomed the three of them into her office. How are you feeling, Naruto? I feel just fine. Naruto said. Tsunade nodded. Well, that's good to hear. It's a refreshing change to hear some good news this morning. We lost a lot of people yesterday. We still only have estimates, but our losses include about 600 shinobi and perhaps 10,000 civilians, not to mention that about a quarter of the village was destroyed in the fighting. She let out a deep sigh. We will hold a memorial tomorrow to honor our dead. But there is too much to be done for us to waste any time. One thing we have to do is start to replace all the Jonin and Chunin that have been lost. So I've decided to promote Hinata, Kiba, Skikamaru, Ino, Lee, and Tenten to Chunin rank. Reaching behind her desk she produced a green vest and handed it to Hinata. Congratulations, Hinata. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I promise to work very hard to be worthy of my new rank. Hinata said proudly. Naruto was staring up at her with an open mouth. Tsunade smiled sweetly at him in feigned ignorance. Is something wrong, Naruto? What about me? You promoted everyone else who made the finals, even Shikamaru and Ino. How can you leave me out? She gave him a frosty look. Oh? And do you think someone who deliberately goes against orders deserves to be Chunin? But I was doing it to help the village. And I stopped the Sand Nins. Ibiki even said so. Tsunade crossed her arms over her chest. Every ninja who fought yesterday or performed some other assignment was trying to help the village. And they didn't have to break orders. But are you really going to punish me for wanting to do more? Naruto pleaded. Tsunade lifts an eyebrow. And you consider being made Jonin a punishment? Of course I do. It's not fair that, huh? Tsunade and Kusina both began to laugh while Hinata and Naruto both looked confused. Tsunade smiled and rubbed the top of his head, messing up his hair. I'm sorry Naruto, you have to let me get a little bit of fun where I can. From behind her desk she produced another vest. Naruto, we have reports that the Kazekage was killed. Most likely by you along with between 200 and 300 sand ninjas. And your shadow clones helped bring the battle to its conclusion. You are clearly one of, if not the, most powerful ninja in this village, and I am most pleased to promote you to the rank of Jonin. Naruto-kun. I am so happy for you. Hinata hugged him. Thanks Hinata-chan, and I am really happy for you. You deserve it. Naruto turned back to Tsunade. Thank you godmother. She smiled at him. Then slowly shook her head and lost some of her good cheer. You're welcome Naruto. But you should know being Jonin only means your life will get that much harder and more dangerous. When word about yesterday's battle gets out, it will become clear to everyone that you are a Jinchuriki and possess the Kyuubi. Given the level of power you displayed, there's no way to keep it secret. Naruto nodded solemnly. I kind of figured that. Is that why you told everyone at the academy, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Yes Hinata-chan. I knew too many people were going to see me with the red chakra. I knew it would be impossible to keep it secret any longer. Well, now that the secret is out, you are going to draw a lot of attention. I expect you to be listed in every bingo book by the end of the month. Really? He said excitedly. Tsunade frowned at his enthusiasm. Naruto, that is not a good thing. For a ninja, surprise is a weapon that you will no longer have. Naruto grinned, and despite his normal features there was something just a bit animalistic in it. It's alright Hokage-sama, I have enough weapons. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade was busy that morning. Niji, thank you for coming to see me. He bowed to her. I am happy to be of service Hokage-sama. And just how can I be of service? Tsunade looked at him with complete seriousness. We have lost a lot of people Niji. The village needs every person in it to pull together and help in order for us to get through this difficult time. There is a way you could be of very great value to Konoha. How Hokage-sama? She smiled. How would you like to be a medic nin? He looked at her in complete surprise. I must admit the thought had never occurred to me. The lady Hinata has a great interest in healing, but mine has always been in fighting. Just think about it for a moment Niji. Your wounds have not affected your ability to draw or use chakra, and like most members of your clan you have excellent chakra control. You would make an outstanding medical nin. I suppose that is true. He answered carefully. However, my lack of mobility and physical stamina would still seem to limit my usefulness in the field. Tsunade nodded. I am glad you understand that. That is why you would not be assigned to a team, rather you would be working in Konoha Hospital. You would not have missions, but you would be a true ninja, and I would also promote you to Chunin once you had progressed far enough. I am about to start teaching a new class and I would like you to be among my students. You could be a very great help in saving the lives of our wounded. What do you think? He thought about it. Being a medic nin had never once crossed his mind. His pride came from proving himself in combat. However, that dream was gone now. He no longer had the mobility or stamina to go on missions. But if he were medic nin, he would still be a ninja, he would even have a purpose. He would be a healer instead of a fighter. He wondered if that meant Hinata would suddenly want to become a fighter rather than a healer. He tried to imagine her deliberately instigating fights with Lee. He chuckled. Something funny? Tsunade asked. No Hokage-sama, if you believe I can best serve the Leaf Village by becoming a medic nin, then I shall do so. Wonderful. XXXXXXXXXX. Thank you for seeing me Hokage-sama. Tsunade smiled and tried to appear gracious. Whether she liked the man or not, he needed to be treated with respect. I always have time for the heads or our clans. How can I help you, Ryuki? You are, I trust, aware of the recent change in my daughter's status. If you mean her recent acquiring of the Sharingan, yes, I am aware of it. He smiled. Obviously things have now changed. She is now of great concern to my clan and to myself. We would like her to be placed on a new team. Tsunade frowned. This was about what she had expected. On what grounds? It is unusual for a ninja to be removed from her team. It is extremely rare without the request of her sensei. And I must tell you, her sensei was here earlier today and told me quite specifically that she was happy with your daughter's performance. He frowned. Of that I have no doubt. However, what her current sensei wants is beside the point. Then what is the point? My clan and I wish her to be on a different team where she may have a more beneficial role. Tsunade shook her head. She fought very well with her current team during yesterday's battle. I would say the role she is serving now is beneficial to the village. She would do better with a different sensei and a different team. Ryuki put just a little bit of heat in his words. Perhaps, she was willing to allow. But that alone is not enough reason to transfer her. She pushed on before Ryuki could object. Most especially as you declared you were disinterested in her only a month ago. The situation has changed. Obviously, but you did not put in a disclaimer at the time. You washed your hands of her without condition. She is serving well where she is and I see no valid reason to move her yet again. She will stay with her current team. I see. He bowed to her and quietly left. She sighed. What a pleasant fellow. She muttered. XXXXXXXXXXX. The next meeting was a relief as this person had an open and friendly demeanor and was just plain likable. Thank you for coming today. He smiled at her. Of course, I would never think to refuse a meeting with the Hokage. She nodded. I'll come right to the point. You have some excellent untapped potential and a number of recommendations, including your father's, of course. I am about to start teaching a new class and I want you to be in it. How would you like to become a true medic nin? The boy gave her a deep heartfelt smile. Hokage-sama, thank you. It has always been my dream to learn at the hands of the legendary son and Lady Tsunade. I eagerly accept. Good. I'm glad this was so easy. Now, I'd like to ask you what you did during the battle. He looked a bit embarrassed and pushed his glasses back up. I am ashamed to admit this, but I was at the stadium and fell asleep when the genjutsu took effect. I woke to a scene of slaughter with the battle already over. Kabuto confessed shamefully. Tsunade nodded in sympathy. Don't feel bad, the same happened to many of our genin. I am sure I can expect great things from you in the future. He bowed deeply to her. Hokage-sama, I truly hope to astound you. Kabuto said. XXXXXXXXXXX. The next day the bells tolled. All of Konoha turned out to honor all those who had died to preserve the Leaf Village. Sarutobi, Shikaku, Inoichi, Choza, and so many others who had made the ultimate sacrifice. The entire village turned out in their mourning clothes to honor them. One by one they laid down a white flower before the images of their fallen comrades. Naruto and his mother comforted Tsunade for the loss of someone who had been like a second father to her. Naruto went to his former classmates to offer what comfort he could. Ino hugged him and for once he did not object and returned her hug and shared with her words of comfort. Of the three of them, Ino seemed the most deeply hurt. Her father would never call her princess again. Chuji was deeply saddened and did not want to talk. Shikamaru wept as he looked at the smiling image of his father. A light rain began to fall and Shika rubbed his eyes. Damn rain, it gets in my eyes. I know it does. Naruto said quietly. Shikamaru looked at his friend. You never knew your father, so I guess I should be glad I got so much time with mine. Naruto nodded. All I ever had were stories. You should be glad you got to know him. Being ninja, there are no guarantees. You know it's funny, Shikamaru said softly. He would always tell these stories about how he and his team would get in these unbelievable situations and how somehow they would always survive them. Shikamaru laughed a bit. Dad would always tell me he didn't like to gamble because he wanted to save his luck for the battlefield. He always told those stories and after a while I stopped listening to them. They got boring. I mean they were all the same, they'd get in trouble and somehow they would find a way out of it. I always thought that was how it would be for them. I never ever thought. He didn't say anything else for a while. Naruto just remained there at his side patient. Is that how it was for you with your mom? Naruto shook his head. No, I was the opposite. Every time my mom left I was terrified I would never see her again. I remember all my nightmares when I was little were about her being hurt or going away and never coming back. Shikamaru was quiet for a while. I'm going to miss him a lot. I know. Shikamaru paused for a bit. I need to go and take care of my mom. He hesitated. Naruto, can I ask you something about the battle? Sure, what? You did most of your fighting against the sand ninjas, right? That's right. By any chance do you remember seeing a blonde kunoichi with 4 ponytails and a giant fan? Naruto looked at his friend oddly. The question wasn't one he'd expected. You mean the girl who kicked Sasuke's ass in the preliminaries? Shikamaru nodded nervously. Yeah, I remember her. Shikamaru swallowed, afraid to ask. Did you kill her? To his immense relief Naruto shook his head. Nope, she kept blasting my clones with wind jutsus out of her damn fan. I never got close to her. He looked at his friend. Why do you care? No reason, I'll see you later Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. Walking home with his mother he suddenly stopped and hugged her with all his might. Kushina was taken by surprise. Is something wrong, son? He shook his head. I love you, Mom. He choked the words out. She out her arms around her baby and hugged him back. I love you too Naruto-kun, I love you too. After a bit he let go and wiped his eyes. Rain get in my eyes. He complained. Kushina nodded. It gets in mine too. She put an arm around his shoulders. Come on, let's go home and I'll make you some ramen. 9,525 Chapter 36, Terms of Surrender. It had only been 7 days. 7 days since the Battle of Konoha. 7 days ago the forces of Suna had made her one of the 5 great shinobi villages. 7 days ago the Kazekage had led a superb army consisting of 500 elite Suna ninja and their secret weapon, Gaara. They had gone into battle with the strongest of the 5 villages with the hope of defeating them and securing Suna's future. Even with allies, even with Gaara's power, and even with surprise they had all understood that war with Konoha was a risk. But the Kazekage had judged it a risk worth taking. 500 ninja had gone north with their Kazekage and with Gaara. 39 had returned, the Kazekage and Gaara not among them. Perhaps the best possible evidence of their situation was to be seen in the meeting of the Council of Wind. There had been 15 members, now 3 remained. The leader of the council was an old man named Suleiman. He was both respected and feared as the head of the Department of Internal Security as well as the Kazekage's chief advisor. He had been the Kazekage's strongest supporter and had been left in charge of the village. Suleiman was also the clan head of Asuma, one of the 6 founding clans of Suna. He was a strong man who was used to making hard decisions. Now he found himself responsible for his village's survival. What are we supposed to do? Polito asked desperately. We have to fight. What else can we do? Sugaya said with conviction. Fight with what? Suleiman said calmly. Both of them turned to him. We no longer have an army. Including the 3 of us, Suna has a total of 7 jonins and 20 chinins, all the rest are genin. How are we supposed to fight with any hope of victory or even survival? Sugaya clenched his fists. We still have ninja. We can make a stand at the valley entrance and hold them there. And when their Jinhyuriki casts his S-rank wind jutsu against us? What will happen then? Suleiman lit a pipe and began to smoke peacefully. He gave them both a minute, but neither of them wanted to answer, so he answered his own question. Our troops will be annihilated. After which the army of Konoha will enter Suna and take their revenge on us. There was complete silence in the council room as Suleiman puffed on his pipe. How could we not have known they had a Biju at their disposal? Polado asked. Suleiman frowned at him. The Department of Internal Security ran Suna's intelligence networks. Is that a condemnation of my department? Suleiman asked quietly. No. Not at all. Polado fell over himself apologizing. Suleiman continued to puff on his pipe. All indications are they did not suspect the existence of Gaara as our secret weapon. We in turn did not suspect this Naruto to be theirs. Suleiman let out a stream of smoke. It seems we were equally good at keeping important secrets. Unfortunately their Jinhyuriki proved the stronger weapon. Then what are we to do now? Polado asked. We have no choice, we must accept the surrender terms. Sugaya slammed both fists on the table. Never. To accept these terms would be to disgrace ourselves and our descendants. To refuse them would be to destroy ourselves and our descendants. Sagwaya, I understand your anger, but to resist, while brave, would be suicidal. It is our duty to save and protect Suna, not deliberately cause its demise. Sagwaya took a deep breath. Is there no other way? None. Suleiman shook his head. Let us make this official. As head of the council I call the question. Shall we accept the terms of surrender sent to us by the Hokage of the Leaf Village? Let all those who agree to do so raise a hand. Suleiman, Polado, and finally Sagwaya raised a hand. It is done. Suleiman announced it as though it were a sentence of death, and in a way it was. We will meet with the new clan heads this afternoon and share the terms with them before we announce it to the village. There will be rioting when they hear of it? Polado said morosely. I do not think so. Suleiman stood up from the table. Take a look at something with me. He walked over to a glass door and stepped out onto a small balcony. Polado and Sagwaya joined him. Down in the village they could see a dozen or more fires lit. They were burning at various cross streets and a crowd was gathered around each. What are they doing? Have they started to riot already? Polado asked. No, Sagwaya said sadly. He, like Suleiman and unlike the younger Polado, was a veteran of the Third Great Ninja War. Those are bonfires. The crowds are throwing their most precious possessions into them. But why? Polado wondered. Sagwaya quietly explained. They are making offerings to Kami. Near the end of the last war, when we stood bankrupt and exhausted, the people did the very same thing. It is a sign that they realize how dire the situation is. They are giving up their most valued treasures in the hope that Kami will spare them and the village. It means the people will not riot, they will accept the surrender. It is a funeral pyre. Suleiman spoke with a melancholy certainty. This marks the end of Suna as a great power. We will never again rise to what we were. He took a deep breath and set himself to walk a hard road. But we will save what we can. XXXXXXXXXX. Are you sure you want me to do this, Tamari? Her maid Tanya asked. Yes. Tamari answered in a dead voice. I can't do much, but I can at least mourn them properly. Maybe Kankuro and Gaara will know somehow and be just a little comforted to know I miss them. And your father as well. No, Tamari said with just a little heat. He can rot in hell unmourned and forgotten. You never called me daughter. You never let me call you father. Even though we lived in the same house, you were a stranger to me and I do not miss you. Tanya gulped. As you wish. She began cutting Tamari's beautiful locks. Will you wear it short for the full year? Of course. Tamari always tried to carry out the traditions. She thought it showed respect for all those who had come before. She sat there quietly in her bedroom and looked into the mirror as Tanya cut off her hair. He was a sad little boy, she said quietly. Tanya stopped cutting and looked at her questioningly. Who? Gara. I remember when he was very little, before he became so cold. He was very sad. All he wanted was love, for someone to care about him. She looked down in shame. I never gave him that. At first it was because I resented him for taking mother away. I blamed him for that. Then later on I was scared of him like everyone else. The only person who ever showed him any affection was my uncle Yoshimaru. After he died was when Gara started to withdraw and become cold and uncaring. She was quiet for a bit. I was relieved. She whispered. Tanya hadn't really heard. What was that? Tamari kept looking down. When Beiki told me Gara was dead, the very first thing I felt was relief. I was relieved to know my baby brother was dead. Tamari-san. Who could blame you for that? I heard him threaten to kill you and Kankuro more than once. And I know you were afraid of him as we all were. Even if you were his sister, no one could blame you for feeling that. Tamari nodded but said nothing. No, no one would blame her. There was not a single person in the whole village who would not feel relief knowing Gara was gone. And that was the tragedy of Gara's lonely existence. That not one person who had known him would truly regret that he was gone. Not even his own sister. Tamari sat there in silence as Tanya finished cutting her hair short. When Tanya was done, her mistress waved a simple dismissal and she was left alone in her bedroom. Now that she was alone, she let the tears spill out. She knew the 25th rule of shinobi conduct and she would never cry in front of others. But now alone she gave into her grief. She cried for Gara and Kankuro and for all the chances that were now gone forever. XXXXXXXXXX. The four of them were having dinner in a small restaurant in some little fire country village. Suzuki picked at his food completely uninterested. Kurane-sensei, why are we here? It's only about 300 miles to Konoha. We could be there in 5 hours. Kurane sighed and ate some rice. Suzuki, I am as anxious as any of you to get home and find out what happened. But we've been moving all day and need to rest. We'll be back home by early afternoon tomorrow. It's not as though it makes a difference now. Suzuki grunted. Well, that was true. They had completed their C rank without any trouble, and just as they were leaving they heard the news. Konoha had been attacked by the Sound and Sand villages. After some vicious and bloody fighting they had won and repelled the invaders. And that was all they knew. They had been moving at top speed the last 2 days to get back home. They knew their village had won. But the fate of friends, family, and homes remained unknown. He wished he could pick up a phone or even a high-powered radio communicator and call the Leaf Village. But such things didn't exist, of course. Doesn't it bother you that while we were having an easy time in Tea Country our village was fighting off an attack? Suzuki asked. I mean, we missed a war. Kurane frowned but continued to eat her dinner. Of course it bothers me, Suzuki. If the fighting were still going on I would have us moving until we reached Konoha. But since the battle is over there would be no point in exhausting ourselves just to get home a day earlier. Everything is decided and whether we arrive today or tomorrow will not change anything. Kurane-sensei is correct, Shino droned. It is only logical that as there is no longer an emergency that we arrive there in good condition. Sakura reached out and put a hand gently over his. I'm sure when we reach home everything will be fine, Suzuki-kun. He pulled his hand away. He really wasn't in the mood to try and deal with her. He got up from the table and put down some Ryu notes. I'm not hungry. I'm going for a walk. With that he walked out. Sakura was quickly on her feet. Let him go, Sakura. Kurane advised. I think he wants to be alone right now. But I just want to help. Sakura objected. He won't appreciate it. Kurane said with a glum certainty. Give him some room for now. Sakura let out a sigh but sat back down. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke walked dejectedly through the little village's streets. He was worried about his mom and the rest of his clan. He was also bitterly frustrated that he had missed a golden chance to prove himself. Konoha had been attacked and he hadn't even been there. He'd been more than 1,000 miles away safe. He wanted to be great. He needed to be great. Yet everything seemed to conspire against him. He couldn't even manage to find his way into a war for Kami's sake. Sasuke. He stopped to look at an unfamiliar face. The person who had called to him was obviously a ninja. He had white hair and 2 little red dots in the middle of his brow. Whoever he was not a leaf nin. He pulled out a pair of kunao. Who are you? My name is Kimimaro and I serve a powerful master who wishes to meet you. I believe we have an acquaintance in common. Sasuke's interest was immediately piqued. Who might that be? Like you, he hides his true face. Sasuke smiled. If you seek power and are ready to bargain for it, come with me. Kimimaro leapt away. Sasuke hesitated only an instant before following. XXXXXXXXXX. There were 6 great houses of Suna. These were the 6 clans who originally founded Suna and they had always wielded the greatest power in the village. As clan head of Osama, Suleiman was the only clan head to have survived the battle, by not going to it. The other 5 had all died in Konoha. The new clan heads were all younger and inexperienced. Suleiman nodded. I thank you all for coming here. To begin with, the council PF Wind has decided to yield to the demands received by us from the Hokage. That decision is made. I have not asked you here to decide what course we shall follow. I have asked you here to assist me and our village in carrying out the harsh demands we are now faced with. Have no doubt the terms are harsh. But also do not doubt that we are faced with only 2 choices, accepting them or destruction. We cannot hope to withstand an attack by Konoha and their Jinchuriki. Therefore, to preserve our village and the lives of our people, the council and I have made the decision to surrender. He puffed on his pipe a bit to give them the chance to speak. He was very relieved to see none of them willing to challenge him. They simply nodded. That was good. Clan heads could sometimes get very stubborn at the worst of times. Very well, let me read to you the terms. He held the document and began to go over the main points. To begin with, Suna surrenders unconditionally to the village within the leaves and accepts all moral responsibility for this conflict and for the breaching of our alliance. We agree to pay war reparations to the amount of 300 million ryu. What? More than one of them screeched. That will ruin us. One of them said. I believe that is the point. Suleiman said dryly. That sum is ridiculous, there is no way we could raise it. Only 100 million is due immediately. We shall have to pay 20 million each year for the next 10 years. Suleiman stated. Even so, how can we raise 100 million ryu so quickly? Simple, Suleiman said. Each of the 6 great houses will have to contribute 15 million ryu. The remaining 10 million we shall raise through loans and tapping our reserves. We of the founding houses are the only ones with enough ready cash. Before they could begin screaming, he continued. I have already given the 15 million from Osama. Tamari jumped in. Since Sabaku is the richest, and as the leader of our clan was the Kazekage who led us into this situation, we will commit 25 million so you will not need to empty the treasury. Suleiman nodded to her appreciatively. He doubted anyone else present would have made such a gesture. I warmly thank you for your generosity and willingness to sacrifice in this desperate hour. I am certain the rest of us shall follow your example. Some of the 4 did not like it. But with the 2 strongest houses willing, they would seem unforgivably selfish and small-minded if they did not. So the 4 of them all agreed. Now then, the next point, Suna ninjas will not be permitted to accept missions in any land save that of Wind. They are also permanently forbidden to attend any future Chunin exams or tournaments. Suna is forbidden to sign any treaties with foreign powers or make war without the permission of the Leaf Village. These terms are impossible. The objection came. To accept them would destroy us. To refuse them would destroy us. Suleiman said. I told you the terms were harsh. Please remember that had we crushed them instead, our conditions would have been no more merciful. He took a deep breath. These terms are designed to ruin us as one of the 5 great powers. From this time forward we shall be a local power like grass or waterfall. How can we do that? The objector looked about hoping for support. We cannot accept these terms when we know the disgrace it will bring. It would be better to resist and to die fighting. Say that only if you truly mean it. For if we resist we will die fighting. Suleiman answered. Tamari turned to the objector. He was only a few years older than she was. Tell me, were you actually there in Kanaha? Did you see the actual fighting? She spoke derisively. The man looked embarrassed and she knew the answer before he spoke. No. Well, I was. She looked around at everyone. Of all the people in this room I was the only one who was there. And let me tell you something, I saw and felt Naruto's, their Jinchuriki's, power firsthand. If he comes here we will all die. All the ninja we have left would last maybe 5 minutes against him. It's all well and good to talk about avoiding disgrace and making a last stand, it sounds very heroic. Maybe someday someone will make an epic poem about the fall of Suna. Is that what you want though? Do you really want everyone to die and our village to be destroyed? Do you want us to be condemned to never be more than a small weak village? He shot back. No, but that choice is gone. We lost that choice in less than an hour's fighting in the Leaf Village. Tamari declared. Even if we fight, our glory is lost. We can no more restore it than we can restore our war dead. Forget about our greatness. Now it is only a question of survival or death. Sabaku no Tamari speaks the truth. Suleiman said. What was lost in Kanaha cannot be restored no matter what we do. We must act to preserve our village. The objector seemed to shrink in his seat as the others all nodded. Could we not at least try and negotiate to lessen some of these terms? Suleiman shook his head. The terms are not negotiable. And we must accept or reject them within 6 days or the Hokage promises continued war. He paused and was relieved that there were no more objections. There is one more major condition. To ensure we abide by the surrender, each of the noble houses must give up a member to be hostage and to live in Kanaha. For how long? Suleiman shrugged. For as long as they wish, perhaps permanently. Surprisingly, there were no objections over that. Taking hostages was an ancient custom that almost always involved the noble class. Once they accepted the idea of surrender, the idea of hostages came easily. The meeting lasted for another 20 minutes as details were worked out. As the clan heads began to leave, he asked Tamari to remain. Once they were alone, he spoke to her. Tamari, I thank you for your support. You made them see the truth of the situation. She shrugged. You were in the right. Our choices are to surrender or fight. We can't fight, so we have to surrender. Suleiman nodded. There is something I need to discuss with you. She grinned. It's about me becoming a hostage, isn't it? He slowly nodded. The terms require 1 hostage from each of the 6 great houses, and you are the last member of Sabaku. I understand. She said simply. I was ready to fight and die for Suna. If it helps the village, I can be a hostage for Suna. I can do nothing right now, but perhaps in a year or 2 the Hokage might be open to an exchange to allow you to return. Tamari shook her head. Don't bother. With my brothers gone, I have nothing left to bind me here. But this is your home. Don't you want to return? She shook her head. No, I have never had friends and I have no family now. Wherever I am, I will be alone. But what about the Sabaku name? He asked. She thought of all the pain and suffering that name had brought to Gaara and the village. What about it? With a slight bow she left. She would have to pack. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kimimaro brought him to a clearing just outside the village. To say Sasuke was disappointed would have been an understatement. There was a pale, sweaty, sickly-looking ninja leaning against a tree. He was wearing a bulky black robe that completely covered him from the neck down. His first impression was one of frailty and weakness. This was hardly the sort of ninja he'd had in mind. "You're Kabuto's master?" he asked questioningly. Kimimaro sent him a cold glare. "Show Lord Orochimaru respect." "Orochimaru?" Sasuke jumped back and drew his kunai. "You led the attack on Konoha." Orochimaru smiled and laughed. "Yes, and my only regret is that I failed to destroy it." He chuckled. "Though I did take a little satisfaction in killing the third lord." "You killed the third Hokage?" "That's right. Before you do something stupid like attack me, let us discuss the reason Kabuto told me of you. You should feel honored. I have gone to a great deal of trouble to meet with you here today and even put myself in a small amount of danger. Now, you want power. I can provide you with power, but in exchange you will become my servant." "No," he said flatly. "I'm doing this to save my village. I won't betray it." Orochimaru grinned. "Ah, an Uchiha with principles. You truly are his brother, aren't you?" Sasuke stiffened. "What do you know about Itachi?" "Quite a bit. We were in the Sum organization for a time. However, I found the experience constraining and decided to go out on my own. Now Itachi really is powerful. If you want to try and match him, I can understand why you are looking for help. I don't want to match him, I want to kill him, and one other person." "Who?" Sasuke frowned. "What does that matter to you? Show respect," Kimimaro warned. Orochimaru laughed. "Oh, that is all right, Sasuke-kun, keep your little grudge a secret. I don't mind. But you'll never be anywhere near Itachi's level without a great deal of help. I can give you that help. I won't betray my village," Sasuke said. Well, how about this? You send me a few reports about anything interesting that you run across and occasionally take care of a few things for me outside the village. How does that sound to you?" Sasuke considered. He knew he was making a deal with the devil. "Damn it, I'm too weak. I need more power to save the village and avenge my father." "You won't expect me to kill anyone in the village then?" "No, but you may need to do some killing elsewhere." "That doesn't bother me, I'm a ninja." He slowly nodded. He knew what he was doing was treason. Even worse, it was the basest sort of evil. But it was for a greater good. He focused in on that. The ends justify the means. "I accept." Orochimaru smiled wickedly. "Then kneel before me and call me master." His spine stiffened at that. But he slowly went down to his knees. "As you wish, master." Orochimaru nodded. "Now a few things you must know. This power I will give you will greatly increase your chakra and your physical strength and stamina as well. When you use the power, there will be a physical manifestation in the form of black marks upon your skin. The power will come from a seal I will place on you. No doubt when you return, your leaders will be frightened of your new power and will try to seal it. I suggest you not let them. You would still be able to draw upon it, but things will be easier for you if you are not required to hide its use. The mark takes quite a bit of getting used to. You will be unconscious for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. And I recommend you tell your teammates that you followed a suspicious ninja out of the village and were ambushed. Do you understand, Sasuke-kun?" "Yes." "Yes, what?" Sasuke swallowed. "Yes, master." Orochimaru laughed. Then his neck extended out from his body. Orochimaru's head came to Sasuke's neck, where he bit down. Almost immediately Sasuke was screaming out in pain. "Let's go, I am done here." Orochimaru spoke and the two of them got going. "Lord," Kimimaro asked as they leapt through the trees. You did not mention to him that his odds of survival are only 1 in 10. Orochimaru smiled. Why would I? If he dies it does not matter. If he lives it does not matter. And had he refused because he feared the odds, I would have simply killed him. Feeling in a better mood, the two of them began the long journey back to the Sound Village. XXXXXXXXXXX. She was the oldest among the 6 hostages. The rest were all children. It was generally considered easier for a child to adjust to a possible lifelong change than someone older. A couple squads of sand nins would escort them to the edge of Wind Country, and from there they would meet a leaf escort. A small crowd had gathered at the gate to wish them well. To the village they were all heroes, sacrificing themselves. The irony was that if they eventually returned in say 10 to 15 years, they would be viewed with suspicion as foreigners. The families were all saying goodbye. Suleiman was hugging his little granddaughter and saying farewell. No one came over to her to try and wish her luck or say goodbye. It seemed somehow fitting that despite her name and wealth that she should be alone. All of the other hostages would have wagons follow them to Konoha filled with possessions. Hostages were treated very well, and usually permitted to live comfortably with whatever they brought with them. She had filled one backpack. She had a few personal items and some clothes. She would buy whatever else she needed in Konoha. As they left, she took one last long look around the village of Suna. She was sad to be leaving but not heartbroken. As she went out the gate, there were 2 things on her mind. She felt certain that she would never come back to Suna. Somehow she just knew as she left that she would never return. And she wondered if Shikamaru was alive and well, and if he would hate her now. Chapter 37, No Feelings at All. Sasuke slowly opened his eyes. He was in a hospital bed. He felt different. Oh, Sasuke-kun. Thank Kami you're awake. Oh, my precious little boy. Are you all right? He slowly focused and saw both Sakura and his mom were smiling down at him. Sakura? Ka-san. Where am I? What happened? You are in Konoha Hospital, son. His mother said gently. You were missing and so we went looking for you. Sakura explained fearfully. We found you knocked out and with a strange mark on your neck. We tried to wake you. I tried to use my medical ninjutsu but you wouldn't wake and I could tell your condition was serious. We decided we had to get you here for treatment. Kurane carried you on her back the whole way. She was desperately sorry. I tried to heal you but I couldn't. When we got here the Hokage helped you as much as she could but said you would have to live or die depending on your own will. I knew you would be alright, Sasuke-kun, I knew it. On instinct he tried to reach out for chakra. Normally when he did so it would fill him like a stream of water filling a bucket. But now it came to him in a flood. Oh, the delicious power. It came and kept coming like an endless river. Both Sakura and his mother gasped. He held out his hands and saw black marks appear on them. Son. Mikoto cried out. What's happening? Sasuke-kun, are you all right? He looked at her and sent her a smile she had never seen before. All right? Sakura, I've never been better. XXXXXXXXXXX. By the time Tsunade had arrived to check on him, Ryuki and Kurane were there along with Sakura and Mikoto. The 2 Uchiha adults were having a quiet but heated argument in the corner while Sakura and Kurane were standing beside Sasuke's bed looking worried. Anyone care to tell me what happened? Tsunade asked. Immediately 5 people were talking quickly and at full volume. Hold it. Hold it. Just one person please. It's really very simple, Hokage-sama. Sasuke spoke. He'd been awake long enough to know exactly what he wanted to say. I spotted this weird-looking ninja in the village we were in. I decided to follow him in case he was a Sound of Sand nin. I followed him to a small clearing and was about to confront him when I felt a horrible pain in my neck. The next thing I knew I woke up here. He gave her a smile. I wanted to make sure I was completely fine, so I tried to mold some chakra. That's when I discovered my amazing good luck. Whatever happened to me has made me far more powerful than I was before. She frowned at him, not really surprised that he would see it that way. So, it's just as I suspected. You have a curse seal mark on your neck, Sasuke. As surprising as it may be, it seems you had a run-in with Orochimaru. Orochimaru? Ryuki said in disbelief. Then why was he spared? Tsunade answered. That seal has a 90% fatality rate. The snake bastard must have thought he would die, and it would be just like him to leave someone to a slow and painful death. Sasuke smiled. A 90% fatality rate? The bastard didn't mention that. But what does it matter now? Well, I guess I beat the odds then, and I just got an incredible boost to my power. Sasuke. That seal is evil. Just like everything else that monster has ever created. Tsunade informed him. As soon as I can get in touch with Jiraiya, I am going to have him place a suppressing seal over it. Suppress it? Hokage-sama, I don't want it suppressed. With the power it gives me, I can be one of the village's greatest ninja. Let me use this power to serve the village and you. Tsunade shook her head. No, Sasuke. It will be suppressed for your own safety. That seal's power is unnatural and would slowly corrupt and taint you. Ryuki spoke up. Do you mean in the same way the Kyuubi's unnatural power will corrupt and taint Naruto? What? Sakura shouted. What are you talking about? Of the people present, she was the only one who did not know. Kurane and Sasuke both looked at him in surprise. Ryuki, Kurane said. Do you realize you have just broken the Sandame's law and committed a capital offense? That law has been repealed, Kurane. Everyone now knows the truth. Ryuki replied calmly. It's true. Tsunade confirmed. Since the battle and his rather large part in it, hiding the truth has been impossible. It has become common knowledge both within and without the village. Sakura's mouth was hanging open. Wait. So Naruto is the Kyuubi. He's. I'll explain it to you later. Kurane assured her. Sasuke grinned. Does that mean that some of the Kyuubi's power came out during the battle? Tsunade frowned. Quite a lot of it did. You don't seem surprised. How did you find out? Mikoto answered. His older brother informed him 4 years ago before. Sasuke nodded quickly. I've known for a while. But anyway, since his power finally came out, does that mean people have been demanding he be exiled or worse? Sasuke couldn't help but sound a little smug. Tsunade sent him a hostile scowl. Hardly. They bow and cheer for him now. They finally recognize him as a hero. Naruto? A hero? Sasuke could not believe it. What was wrong with people? How could they not understand that a power like the Kyuubi's could not possibly be contained? That's not all, Ryuko added. He has also been promoted to Jonin. What? Sasuke practically shouted. He glared at the Hokage. I can see what having friends in the right places can do for a person. Watch your mouth, Sasuke. Tsunade shouted back. Naruto earned his promotion. He, Jiraiya, and Sarutobi were the great heroes of this battle. He killed the Kazekage and at least 300 enemy ninjas. He broke the Suna army and helped bring the battle to a swift end. And whether you have a petty jealousy of him or not, he is a hero and a Jonin. Sasuke bit down on a bitter reply, having had his nose rubbed in how much Naruto had accomplished. Despite his newly gained power, he felt Naruto once again leaving him behind. There is no denying that Naruto did an amazing job during the battle. Ryuki acknowledged. But of course that was because he had the Kyuubi's power at his disposal. I did not see it myself, but those who did all agreed that the Kyuubi's chakra held a powerful taint of evil. Can we trust that Naruto will have the necessary strength to keep it under his control? Of course we can. Tsunade answered immediately. I know Naruto will be able to handle the Kyuubi's power. Ryuki smiled and sprung his trap. Yet you do not trust Sasuke to control the power he has received. Where precisely is the difference? If you feel safe to leave Naruto with the Kyuubi's chakra, then how can you object to Sasuke using his new power? Tsunade frowned. Because Naruto is the most special of special cases. And because he actually acts out of a sense of love and duty. Where Sasuke follows his own ambitions. That's why I trust Naruto and not Sasuke. Unfortunately she couldn't come right out and say that. And unfortunately any argument she chose to make would be based on the fact that she trusted Naruto but not Sasuke with the burden. Seeing her pause, Ryuki pushed on. Sasuke and I both wish for him to keep the seal mark and use it for the good of the village. Just as Naruto is able to use the Kyuubi's tainted chakra. Please allow him to use Orochimaru's tainted gift. I want to suppress the curse mark for his own good as well as the village's. It would damage his psyche over time. Ryuki shook his head. I have faith in my nephew's will and strength of character. He does not want the seal suppressed and neither does his clan. Mikoto looked troubled but remained silent. And unlike a certain other matter, the Uchiha clan has the highest interest in this. We absolutely insist Sasuke be left as is. Both of you are pompous idiots. She knew this would be a mistake. Unfortunately she couldn't really afford to antagonize the clan too much. She let out a deep sigh. Very well, as the clan insists I will leave the mark as is. However, I hold you and the Uchiha clan responsible for his actions. Ryuki bowed to her. Of course. Sasuke smiled. He had won. XXXXXXXXXX. 3 days had passed since Sasuke's return to the village. Shikamaru stood in the Hokage's office with some other leaders of Konoha's clans. Uchiha Mikoto, Hyuga Hayashi, Abarame Shivi, and Inuyasukitsum were all present, as was a certain annoying blonde. He grinned at his friend. Shouldn't you be in your room right now? I mean, I wouldn't want you to get in more trouble. My mom considers this a duty, so it's okay. Naruto grumbled. Shikamaru grinned. Does that mean you have to go straight home afterwards? Naruto sent him a flat look. Yeah. Shikamaru chuckled. You know, Naruto, you have got to be the first jonin in history to actually have his mom ground him. He eyed his friend a bit speculatively. Anyway, shouldn't your mom be doing this? She's training her team right now. She said I should do it, that it would be good experience for when I'm clan head. In turn, Naruto eyed his lazy friend. Why are you here, Shikamaru? Isn't Yoshino clan head now? Shika sighed. Yeah, she is. But she's still having a really rough time dealing with dad being gone. Right now she is staying with the Yamanakas, they're sort of helping each other with the loss. So your mom just left you all alone? Shikamaru smirked. You make that sound like a bad thing, Naruto. Anyway, it's not like she's left the country or anything. If I need to see her, I know where she is. Tsunade entered, being trailed by Shizuan. It was one of the handful of times she wore the robes of her office. She looked to be in an excellent mood. Being able to avoid a continuation of the war with Sand had made her happy. And having been shown a couple huge trunks stuffed with Ryu notes hadn't hurt either. I want to thank all of you and your clans for agreeing to house and care for the hostages. As you all know, there are still some hard feelings running against Suna. Even so, I hope you will remember that I want these people to be well treated. They are not our enemies. They are not our prisoners. They are honored guests, and I hope you will treat them in that manner. They may be here for a very long time. It is quite possible that they will never leave. Please make them feel welcome. In short order, the hostages were led into the Hokage's office. Shikamaru felt his heart skip a beat. He hadn't thought he would ever see her again. Yet there she was, not 10 feet away. She looked very different. He'd thought her previous hairstyle very strange, consider the source, but now she had it cut very short like a boy's hair. She was dressed in a black kimono just as the children were. She was also missing that cocky attitude and smile he had come to like so much. Now she looked very somber and serious. Well, he could understand why. It couldn't be easy leaving family and friends behind. When she spotted him, there was a quick flash of surprise and guilt. She immediately broke eye contact and looked to the floor. He wanted very badly to talk to her but knew he needed to wait. Naruto did not miss the little interaction. As the Hokage officially welcomed them to the village, Naruto whispered to his friend, "What's with you and the girl?" He took a deep breath. This was going to be so troublesome, he could tell. Girls, by their very nature, were troublesome, but Temari was sure to be a whole category unto herself. But he couldn't help feeling something for her. We sort of hung out together the week before the finals. Naruto gave him a very surprised look. Shikamaru had to be the absolute last guy he would ever imagine chasing a foreign kunoichi. For one thing, he had stated his opinion of girls loud and clear many, many times. They were loud and bothersome, except for Hinata. For another thing, isn't being with a girl like that a little too troublesome for you? Naruto whispered. Shika sighed. You would think so. He decided to let the subject drop there for the time being, and Naruto spared him an inquisition. The welcoming ceremony was brief, and each of the hostages was assigned to the clan that would be responsible for them. Temari was assigned to Namikaze, while a little 8-year-old girl named Alisa would go with Nara. Naruto remembered the girl well from both their original run-in and from the battle. She clearly remembered him too and looked a bit nervous. She had flirted with him a little, but having seen dozens of his clones come after her with bloodlust in their red eyes had changed her opinion of him. She offered him a formal bow. Naruto Dano, I thank you for taking responsibility for me. I assure you I shall behave properly and respectfully at all times. Naruto gave her a smile. Glad to hear it. Just so you know, I don't bear you any grudge. I understand you were doing your duty as I was. She nodded. I do understand that, and I bear you no hostility, despite what you took from me. His smile disappeared. Did I kill someone close to you? She nodded but kept a placid look on her face. My male parent, she refused to call him father, and my brother Kankuro were both killed by your wind jutsu. I am sorry. Naruto said quietly. Temari shook her head. You were defending your home from invasion. I understand and truly do not blame you. Are you all right, Temari? Shikamaru had been standing right there listening. His words were low, but the look in his eyes was filled with emotion. She blushed just a little bit as she nodded. I am fine, Shikamaru. Are you all right? He sighed. Yes, but I lost my father. Not Shikaku. She reached out and put a comforting hand on his arm. Oh Shikamaru, I am so sorry. And though she was not the sort to normally do so, she put her arms around him and hugged him. I am so sorry. He put his arms around her as well. I'm sorry too, Temari. They remained in each other's arms for a short while. Do you hate me? She whispered to him. He pulled back just enough to look in her teal eyes. No, never. She swallowed a bit. When we said goodbye, I wanted to tell you, but Her voice just sort of trailed off. He nodded. I know. He said simply. While the two of them had been hugging, Naruto had gotten a little grin on his face and sauntered over to his godmother. He spoke to her quietly. She looked at the two who were hugging and chuckled. She nodded to Naruto, who crossed the room again. He put a hand on the shoulder of the little girl named Alisa. She looked up at him nervously. All right, we're trading. Naruto said. What? Shikamaru and Temari regretfully pulled apart. Naruto gave his friend a knowing grin. The Hokage says it's fine if we exchange assignments. I'll take Alisa here and Temari can go home with you. Can you do that? Shikamaru said in surprise. It's already done. He turned to the little girl. Well, Alisa, my name is Namikaze Naruto. You'll be staying with me and my mom and our friend Haku. Despite looking nervous, the little girl bowed to him. Yes, Naruto Dano. I promise that I shall behave myself and be a proper guest at all times. Just Naruto is fine. Come on, I'll take you to your new home. Naruto, Shika said. I owe you one. He had a good laugh. Yeah, you do. XXXXXXXXXX. As they walked through the streets, people made way. Some bowed, some cheered, but they all looked on proudly. Is this how all clan heads are treated here? Alisa asked. Naruto shook his head. No, I'm not a clan head, and this is only since the battle. Before that, as many people hated me as liked me. Why? He looked at her. She would find out eventually. I am a Jinchuriki and possess the Kuwabai. She stumbled but quickly righted herself without help. She looked up at him, paling. There is no need to be scared. I possess the demon, but I am not him. I am my own charming self. He tried to give her a reassuring smile. She slowly nodded. The only Jinchuriki she had ever heard of or seen was Gaara, of course, and he was the stuff of nightmares. Naruto seemed as different from Gaara as night and day. Naruto, may I ask you a question, and please forgive me if I offend? He lifted an eyebrow. Ask me anything you like. She swallowed. Have you ever murdered anyone? She knew that was not a good question to ask, but she really needed to know. Murdered? He said in surprise. He shook his head. I'm a ninja. I've killed an awful lot actually after the battle. But I've only ever killed in defense or in the line of duty. I have never murdered anyone and never would. She believed him and nodded. Maybe all Jinchuriki were not the same. XXXXXXXXXX. She felt a huge relief arriving at the Nara household. Many of the people on the street had sent her harsh looks. Shikamaru had put an arm around her protectively and sent his own glares back. If he had tried to do that a couple weeks before, she would have pushed him aside and smacked him with her fan. For that matter, if people had given her looks, she would have glared right back and asked what the problem was. Now things were different. She knew why so many of them looked at her with hate. She would have to accept it. She was no longer Kunoichi. She had surrendered her fan and all her weapons to the Umbu who had escorted her. Upon arriving in Konoha, she had surrendered her Hittite. She had to behave like a hostage now, not like a ninja. No violence and no running away. Where is your mother? I want to offer her my condolences. She's staying with some friends right now. If you want, we can see her tomorrow. She gave him a surprised look. So we're all alone. That's right. I see. For the first time in quite a while, a grin touched her lips. She leaned in close to Shikamaru. Well, in that case, I guess you had better go ahead and take advantage of me. He immediately stiffened and took a step back. His face was as red as a ripe apple. What? He said in panic. He saw just a little of that cocky girl he had liked so much. I said you should take advantage of me, by letting me make you a nice dinner. Unless you actually know how to cook. He quickly shook his head. I know where the kitchen is, relax, and I'll make us something to eat. Then after that we can play some shogi. With that she strode into the kitchen as though it were hers and he was the guest. He stood there in their living room for a bit and slowly came to really understand that this girl was going to be living here with him. He was going to see her every day he was in the village. She would probably end up becoming close friends with his mother. Oh Kami, what have I done? XXXXXXXXXX. Two cloaked figures stood on a hill overlooking the ruins of what had once been the south wall. Not long ago it was at the height of its glory, now look at it. One of them said quietly. The second one looked over to the first. Such sentiments were a rare thing from him. He sent his partner a toothy grin. Is that sadness I hear in your voice? Do you still have some feelings for your old home? The other looked at him blankly over a high collar. No, The answer came in the familiar dead tone. No feelings at all. Chapter 38, Little Sister. They were sitting down to dinner. She did not have much of an appetite. She couldn't help but notice that her son was in fine spirits. Despite having been ambushed and infected with that evil, he seemed to be in a better mood than she could remember in a long time. Her brother-in-law was also in a fine spirits. So far as he was concerned, what had happened was nothing but a blessing. Even Gabriella seemed happier than she had been for some time. She and her father had gotten into an acrimonious fight over her remaining with Kushina as sensei. Gabriella was absolutely adamant that she remain with her current team. Not only did she seem to greatly admire Kushina, but Mikoto got the sense there was something going on with her teammate as well. Despite their disagreement over her squad, Gabriella and her father seemed to be drawing a bit closer. Now that his daughter had finally achieved Sharingan, he seemed convinced things would work out. Whenever he spoke of her to others, it was with words of praise and joy. Since the battle and her activation, Gabriella had become much more confident and happier. "You know, I still can't believe you finally activated your Sharingan," Suzuki teased. In response, she closed her eyes and revealed it. She had shown it to him before, of course, but she didn't mind. "Well, you had best believe it. And I am getting stronger. Kushina is teaching me how to use the blade. She says with my Sharingan and the way I work at it, I should be a first-level blade master by the time the next Chunin exams roll around." Ryuki frowned a bit, as he always did when he heard his daughter praising that woman. But he wasn't looking to spoil the good mood. "The next exams are being held in Mist. Does she say anything about letting you compete? You would need a third member for your squad." Gabriella nodded. "She says that if Haku and I continue to progress, she will definitely nominate us for the exams. She also says she will see about finding us a third member sometime soon." "Well, I have no doubt that you will be Chunin this time around," Ryuki said confidently. "You know, honey, if you like, I could give you some additional training." She stopped eating and stared at him. "Something wrong? You haven't called me, honey, in a very long time, Dad," Gabriella said quietly. "You haven't wanted to help me train for a while too." "I know," her father spoke a bit sadly. He took a very deep breath. "I am sorry for not having more faith in you, my daughter. I should have. But my heart is bursting with pride in you. You make me very proud, and I would like to help you as much as I can." A slow smile blossomed on her face. She had never, ever expected to hear him say that. She didn't think he knew the words, "I am sorry." But hearing that and hearing him say he was proud of her made her happy. There were still issues between them, but she did love him and wanted him to be proud of her. "I would like that, Daddy." Ryuki grinned. "Good. And do you mind if I call you honey, or are you too old for that?" She laughed a bit. It felt so good to have his approval. "No, Dad, you can call me that." "Good thing he's going to help you," Suzuki teased. "If you want to even stay near me, you'll need all the help you can get. Hey, me and Haku will definitely make Chunin at the next exams." Ryuki laughed and applauded. "That's my girl." Mikoto looked at the end of the table where a quiet 7-year-old was eating. "Are you enjoying your meal, Meiju?" The boy looked up nervously. "Oh yes. It is very good. Thank you, Mikoto." With the boy's blonde hair and green eyes, he easily stood out in the Uchiha compound. He was clearly afraid of offending and trying to find his place. "Suzuki," Mikoto asked, "why don't you show Meiju around the village tomorrow?" Suzuki shook his head. "I have training with my squad tomorrow. You could do it before that." Mikoto smiled hopefully. "Maybe the two of you can get to know each other. I'd really rather not waste the time." Mikoto frowned at her son and Meiju looked down nervously. "Ah, why don't I show him around?" Gabriella offered. She turned to him with a playful grin. "I can introduce you to my team and get you some ice cream. How does that sound?" The boy looked HP at her hopefully. That sounds like fun, thank you. Mikoto nodded. Suzuki, I would like a word in private with you right now. She got up from the table and left the dining room. With a dramatic sigh, Suzuki pushed back from the table and stood as well. Excuse me. Meiju looked unhappy as the boy left. I hope I did not cause any trouble. Gabriella shook her head. Don't worry, it has nothing to do with you. XXXXXXXXXX. Did you enjoy your dinner, Alisa-chan? Kusina asked with a gentle smile. The little girl nodded. Yes, thank you, it was very good, Kusina-san. Kusina shook her head slightly. You will probably be staying here for a very long time. While you are here, I would like you to consider yourself to be a part of this family. Of course, since I know you have a family in Suna, I cannot actually adopt you. But I would like to treat you as my daughter, and I would like it very much if you would call me mother. The girl looked up at Kusina and very slowly smiled. I would like that, mother. Good. She immediately took the girl in a hug and began giving her kisses. I always wanted to have a daughter. Thanks, Mom. Naruto said. Kusina chuckled as she let Alisa go. You know what I mean, dear. Sure, Mom. Naruto went to Alisa and patted the top of her head. Well, I guess that would make you my little sister. The girl began to blush immediately. Hi. Haku approached and also smiled at the little girl. Please think of me as a friend and someone who will watch out for you. Arigato, Haku. She looked shyly at Naruto, who was giving her one of his big smiles. Should I call you Naizen? I'd like that, little sister. Alice's blush darkened just a bit. Naruto, why don't you take her around the village tomorrow before you meet with your team? Sure, Mom. XXXXXXXXXXX. A doll? He asked with a grin. Tamari sent him a dangerous look as she set the doll down in a chair in her new room. And what is wrong with a girl having a doll? Aren't you just a little old for dolls? Shikamaru asked. Sandy isn't here as a toy. I brought her as a reminder of what little happiness I had growing up. Shikamaru had a huge grin. Your doll's name is Sandy. Yes, it is. She crossed her arms. I suppose you never had a childhood toy. He shrugged. I might have, but I'll never admit to it. Whatever, she grumbled. Now, did you want to play shogi? He nodded. Sure. They exited her room. You know, dinner was really good. You sound surprised. Well, I am. I didn't think a scary girl like you would know how to boil water. Ow. He rubbed the top of his head. What was that for? That was for assuming a woman can't be strong and still be able to be a good cook. He continued to rub his head as he frowned at her. You know, you're starting to remind me of my mom. She gave him a huge smile. Thanks. She hurried down the stairs. That wasn't a compliment. He muttered to himself. XXXXXXXXXX. What is it, Kasan? Mikoto frowned at him. Suzuki, I want you to spend some time with Meiju. Why? Suzuki asked. Because he will be here for a very long time and I would like for the two of you to become close. She gave him an encouraging smile. Maybe he could become like a little brother to you. But Suzuki shook his head. No thanks. One brother is enough. Mother, I'll be polite to him, I'll treat him like an honored guest. But I don't have time to waste pretending he's something that he's not. And what is so very important, Suzuki, that you have so little free time? I need to get stronger. I need to increase my power. After all, I'm still just a genin. I need to put all my time in becoming more. You mean like attack it? She asked coldly. Mom, I'm nothing like him. If that's true, then let the Hokage have that curse seal suppressed. Mom. Hear me out. She demanded. Suzuki frowned but closed his mouth. The man who gave this terrible thing to you possesses the Sharingan. It is almost certain that he gained it through the murder of Uchiha Damas. To accept anything from him under any circumstances is an insult to Damas's memory. That seal on your neck, son, may give you more power, but please consider the cost. You heard the Hokage say it would damage your mind over time. It's a poisonous infection that will only do you harm. Whatever power it gives you, it is not worth the price. Power is worth any price. Sasuke said defiantly. I could imagine Itachi saying the same thing. The look he gave her was clearly hurt. Mom, I'm not anything like Itachi. I am no longer so sure, son. Mikoto said quietly. When I hear that hunger in your voice to gain power, it makes me shudder a little. You are beginning to scare me, son. You are walking the same path as your brother. He put gaining power ahead of everything else too. Ka-san, you don't understand. I don't want power for selfish reasons. I only want it to protect this village. And to kill my brother. Mikoto shook her head. The ends justify the means. Is that it? Sasuke nodded. Son, those words have been used to justify horrors all throughout history. At every massacre, I'm sure they've been said in one form or another. Sasuke, the ends do not justify the means. Some things are simply wrong and should not be done regardless. Mom, you're not a ninja. You don't understand it? No, I am not a ninja. But I have lived within a ninja clan for most of my life. Do not think me ignorant of the ways of the shinobi. She sighed. Son, I have decided to resign as clan head. Your uncle can have the position. What? But why? Don't you want to be clan head? No. I tried to have the curse seal suppressed, but Ryuki told me that if I insisted, he would assemble the clan council to have me replaced. If I cannot even protect my own son, then there is no point in my keeping the title. But being clan head will still give you a lot of power. Sasuke argued. Perhaps, she said sadly. But for me it is no longer worth the price. XXXXXXXXXX. She'd had a good evening. Except for a few minutes when he had gone upstairs for something, she had spent all her time with Shikamaru. He was lazy and annoying and had some stupid ideas about women, but she did like being with him. Returning to her room, she immediately noted that Sandy had been moved. There on the chair, Sandy had some company. A plush toy deer was sitting with her. Sandy's arms had been placed so that she seemed to be hugging the deer. She also noticed a piece of paper on the chair as well. Picking it up, she read out what was written there. Cloud is very happy to have Sandy here. She put the paper down and left. Looking at the little deer, she addressed him. Well, Cloud, Sandy is very happy to be here too. XXXXXXXXXX. The next day, Naruto was scheduled to meet his team at the bridge at 9, like usual. He intended to actually get there at about 10:30, again as usual. He expected Kakashi to show up at 11. That gave him most of the morning to show Alisa the village. As he walked around, he showed her all the important sites, the tower, the academy, Ichiraku's, the marketplace, and other places he thought important or interesting. Wherever they went, people greeted them with good cheer and with kindness. Alisa felt very welcome and safe in her new home. When she mentioned she was a little tired, Naruto picked her up and put her on his shoulders. Eek. Naruto laughed. You alright? Yes, Naizen, I am. You don't have to do this, I can walk, I'm only a little tired. Alisa sounded a little embarrassed. Don't worry, I'm pretty strong and I don't mind. They walked along for a while. Naizen. Yes. Are you really the Jinchuriki with the Kuwabai? He chuckled. I'm afraid I am. Why? Do you think someone would make up something like that? Well, I saw Gaara in the village and I knew the stories about him. He was very scary. I met him. I can believe people were scared of him. People here used to be very scared of me too. Very angry as well. But you're nothing like Gara was. Alisa exclaimed. You're so nice. I always thought, everyone always thought, Gara was the way he was because of the demon. Naruto shook his head. Actually, the only ways Kyuubi affected me on a daily basis were the whisker marks you see on my cheeks and in how much chakra I had. I am the way I am because of my mom and because of the people who loved me growing up. I don't know Gara's story, but he was the way he was because of how he was treated growing up. But he was the Kazekige's son. Alisa protested. He lived in the largest mansion in Suna. So? Little sister, it wasn't all the money and possessions I had that mattered to me growing up. For me, my mother and her love meant everything. If I had grown up without her, I'd have been miserable and lonely, even living in a mansion. Alisa nodded. In that case, I'm very glad mother was there for you. He laughed. Me too. He brought her to the park. It was still early, but there were some young children playing with parents and some older people. It was a beautiful morning. Naruto was having a good time showing his new little sister some of his favorite spots. Until he felt two chakra signatures, one very familiar. He quickly put Alisa down. She could see that his face was no longer cheerful. Is something wrong, Naizen? She asked. Yes. Alisa, I want you to go the park entrance and wait for me there, please. But why? She sounded a bit hurt. He tried to give her a smile. I have to take care of something. Please just wait for me. She slowly nodded. All right, Naizen. Will you be long? Yes, I think I might. He calmly watched her go and flipped his radio communicator to the send position. You may as well come out now. Two ninja with black robes with red clouds on them appeared. One he did not recognize. He had blue skin and a large bundle on his back. The other ninja he knew quite well. Who is the little one? Itaki asked calmly. She is a hostage from Suna who has come to live with my family. Naruto stated. The two of you seem close. Itaki observed. Please leave her and the other civilians here out of this. Itaki shrugged. I have no objection to that. My business is with you only, Naruto-kun. And what business is that, Itaki-kun? Since we're in the park, I presume you and your friend here have come to have a picnic by the lake. The blue-skinned ninja laughed. Oh, I like him. He's got guts. Almost makes me regret what we are about to do. Naruto nodded and got himself ready. So you're here to kill me? No, Itaki spoke. We are here to capture you, Naruto-kun. That is the highest order given to us by the Akatsuki. And who or what are the Akatsuki? They are the elite criminal organization that we both serve. Itaki said. And why would a criminal organization want me alive? What are you going to do, hold me for ransom? No, Naruto-kun, we intend to extract that power that we hold inside you. The other ninja chuckled. Which, by the way, will have the side effect of killing you. I see. Naruto calmly brought his hands together. You know I can't let you have the Kyuubi's power. Of course. Itaki activated and readied his Mangekyo Sharingan. All right then. Let's go. Leaping back, he began to cast his first jutsu. Chapter 39, A Fight in the Park. Kakashi was sitting in a little tea house enjoying a hot cup as he read a certain orange-covered book. It was a little after 10. He still had plenty of time to get to his team for their usual 9 a.m. meeting. He was reading how Teiko was trying to convince a buxom blonde judge to drop the charges against him when his radio came to life. You may as well come out now, Naruto's voice said. Kakashi frowned and immediately tried to contact Naruto. Naruto's communicator was clearly still in the send setting though. From what was coming through, Naruto was obviously having a conversation with someone. But he could only hear one half of it. And what business is that, Itaki-kun? Since we're in the park. Itaki. Kakashi tossed down some Ryu notes and leapt out of the tea house. he switched his radio communicator to the Umbu emergency frequency. This is Hatake Kakashi declaring an emergency. Uchiha Itachi is attacking Namikaze Naruto at Konoha Park. Please send all available units. He quickly switched his radio to another frequency. XXXXXXXXXX. Hinata was doing a little light sparring with Hanabi as her radio came to life. She was pleased at first to hear Naruto's voice. When she realized he wasn't really calling her or Kakashi-sensei, she began to worry. When she heard him mention Itachi, she fled the Hyuga mansion and raced towards the park. Kiba was walking Akamaru leisurely on his way to the bridge. When Naruto's voice came over the line, he listened curiously to it. When Itachi was mentioned, he snatched up Akamaru and began leaping the rooftops towards the park. Kushina and Gabriella were practicing sword work with a pair of wooden blades. This is so embarrassing, Gabriella complained. Once again Kushina had drawn a circle in the dirt, a much smaller one this time. And it was Kushina stuck in it this time. Though Gabriella also felt a prisoner. What is the point of this? Kushina smiled. She could remember a 7-year-old Naruto asking that exact same question. It's to help you to develop your sword work and especially your attacks without worrying too much about footwork yet. All you have to do is hit me once or make me step out of the circle. Oh, is that all? It sounded easy, especially given that she had the Sharingan. But despite that, it was proving impossible to get through Kushina's defenses even once. Kushina was very fast and expert at reading her opponent's movements, which limited the Sharingan's advantage. Still, Gabriella got ready to try again. She was just beginning to learn the sword and was enjoying it even with the frustration. Before she could begin though, their radios came to life. Kushina, this is Kakashi, do you copy? Kushina's team and Kakashi's naturally used different frequencies. But since the attack, they had let each other know what they would be using in case of any sort of emergency. Kushina understood that Kakashi calling her was a bad sign. This is Kushina. What's wrong? Maybe she was being pessimistic. It looks like Itachi is back in town and he's attacking Naruto at the park. I've alerted the Umbu and am heading there now. Her blood ran cold. Itachi. I'll meet you there. Haku had been practicing senbons and was now standing in front of her with Gabriella. The two of you stay here. But Gabriella tried to argue. Both of you stay here, and if you follow me, I swear I'll put you in the circle again. Gabriella grimaced as Kushina leapt away. After about 30 seconds, Haku turned to her. I have to go. What? Do you want to be in the circle? Haku shook his head but looked utterly determined. I swore when I came here that I would protect and serve the Namikaze clan. And I won't lose one of my precious people while I just stand here. With that he leapt away. She instantly leapt after him. If he was going to be in danger, she was going. She just hoped the circle was easier the second time. Shadow clone technique. In the air 100 shadow clones came into existence. They landed and nearly all of them had pulled out their swords. Naruto had sent 2 of them to try and get the civilians out of danger. Kisame pulled his massive sword from his back and the bandages on it dropped away. Itachi cast a jutsu of his own. Grand Fireball technique. A massive boulder of fire rocketed towards him, forcing his clones to scatter. Kisame leapt in with his sword swinging. He wiped out 3 clones in one swing. He was laughing. Come on, at least put up a fight. Kisame, Itachi said calmly. I've warned you not to underestimate him. Naruto did not dare use his most powerful jutsus as he had no idea how many civilians might still be in the park. Wall of wind technique. A powerful and broad wind struck the 2 missing nins and knocked them backwards, temporarily splitting them up. Seeing his chance, he quickly directed most of his clones to go after Kisame, while the rest went in after Itachi. He meanwhile quickly circled around. His clones always used the dance of the Sakura. Of the 5 dances, the dance of the cherry blossoms was the most powerful and most dangerous to use. It was the only dance that was completely devoted to attacking your enemy. That fact made it the most lethal of the dances. The lack of concern for defense also made it the most dangerous to employ. But those worries didn't apply to shadow clones, which made the dance perfect for them. As his clones came on attack, it was forced onto the defensive, reacting to their attacks rather than acting on his own initiative. He destroyed many of them with Kunao, but was still forced into the woods away from his partner and in the direction Naruto wanted. The last 4 came to a halt facing Itachi, who carefully eyed them. He was still looking at them when the real Naruto struck from behind, driving his sword into Itachi's back and out his chest. Itachi stiffened and looked over his shoulder to his killer. He did not look angry or hurt. "I am sorry, Itachi," Naruto said. "That is all right, Naruto-kun," Itachi replied calmly. His body suddenly seemed to waver and became black. His body split apart into 100 pieces, and those pieces turned into ravens. "Ah hell, I'm in a genjutsu." Having no choice, he dropped his katana and slammed his palms together. Kai! But the ravens were still flying around him. He slammed his palms together again. Kai! He screamed, desperate to end the genjutsu. As he continued to press his palms together, his right arm began to shake. To his horror, he saw his skin and clothing begin to peel away in the breeze. He began to feel the skin on the right side of his face begin to peel away. From underneath, his true form came out. His face became a fox's with snapping jaw and teeth, a red eye flowing wickedly. His hand became a claw and his arm became iron hard, muscled, and covered with matted red fur. He could smell the fox's odor. The fox laughed. "The seal is broken. I am free. You have failed. Now everyone will die, and it will be because you were too weak." "No!" Naruto shouted in terror. "This is an illusion, it's not real." Instantly the fox's arm gripped his throat and cut off his air. "Does this feel like an illusion, you fool? You lost control and I have been set free." He tried to shout, but he couldn't talk. With his own hand he tried to yank back the foxes, but it was useless. Kai! 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 Damn it, this isn't real. But it seemed very real. The lack of air was real. He dropped to his knees as he tried to breathe. Itachi calmly got rid of the 4 clones that had also fallen to their knees. He turned to look at Naruto. He seemed pathetic in his Hokage cloak, kneeling in the grass as he choked himself with his own hand. Itachi was disappointed. "This was far too easy, Naruto-kun. You should have been much stronger." From behind him he heard movement. He turned to see one more clone coming at him. It was one of the clones that had been sent off earlier and was not caught in the genjutsu. Not that it mattered. The clone threw a kunao at him. Itachi frowned. It was a poor effort and missed him by a foot. He did not even have to dodge. You should have learned to control your emotions. Your panic ruined your aim. He threw a kunao and rid himself of the nuisance. Actually, I hit what I was aiming for. Itachi spun back around. Naruto was still kneeling in the grass. There was now a kunao lodged in his thigh and he was casting. The sudden pain had obviously been enough to snap him out of the genjutsu. Blades of Wind technique. As before, the air in front of Naruto solidified. But this time, rather than forming a solid front, it became a number of curved semicircles, rather like the blades of a scythe. All at once they moved towards Itachi. Blades made of wind could not be blocked by a sword or kunao, they could only be dodged. For an ordinary ninja it would have been impossible to avoid all those unseen attacks. But for someone who could see chakra and who possessed incredible physical ability, it was possible. Itachi leapt and darted and was just able to avoid being touched by any of them. But by the time the jutsu dissipated, he was about 30 yards away and Naruto had already cast another jutsu. All about him a thick and obscuring mist began to rise. "I know for a fact that the Sharingan can't see through fog," Naruto called out. Itachi nodded. "That is true, Naruto-kun. Will you use this jutsu to escape?" A very nasty laugh and a sudden sharp killer intent were the reply. Escape? You're not going to be that lucky. I don't run away. Wincing, he finally pulled the kunai out of his leg. He also got rid of the Hokage cloak. The black and red bodysuit underneath was better suited to life and death combat. You shouldn't have come back to this village, Itaki, and you shouldn't have come after me. I'm going to kill you today. Hearing the words and feeling the intensity of his intent to carry them out, Itaki's lips began to quiver ever so slightly. This might be challenging after all. I'm going to kill you today. Hearing the words, Kakashi shook his head. Damn it, Naruto, there's no shame in retreating. We're ninjas, not berserkers. Naruto had been taught that, of course. Clearly, when this was over, he would need a refresher course. The entire park was covered with a dense fog. With a kunai, he sliced his thumb and performed some hand signs. Summoning technique. Pakun appeared. Kakashi, what's up? Itaki is attacking Naruto. I need you to bring me to him, preferably without running into Itaki first. Got it, Pakun replied. Stay close to me or we may get separated in this stuff. Kusina arrived at the southern edge of the park. She had switched frequencies and was listening to Naruto threaten an S-rank missing nin with the most powerful version of the Sharingan. Naruto-kun, a tactical withdrawal is not the same as running away. If she could have, she'd have told him to pull back and wait for help, but his radio communicator remained in the send position. So instead she looked at the thick fog in front of her and tried to guess the best place to start looking for him. As she did so, two figures landed on either side of her. What are you two doing here? She demanded sharply. Kusina-sama, I swore to protect the Namikaze clan. Even if I am punished for it, I will not go back on my oath. And in truth, knowing Naruto is in danger, I want to help him no matter what. Kusina frowned at him and then turned to Gabriella. And what is your excuse? Gabriella shrugged. I couldn't let Haku go by himself. She sent him a grin. He might have gotten lost. Kusina sighed and shook her head. I assume that if I tell you to both wait here, you'll ignore then order to. Yes. Haku said simply, and Gabriella nodded in support of his answer. All right, since you're both determined to be stupid and insubordinate today, we'll go in as a team. But understand, I will be punishing you for this later. Gabriella felt her heart sink. Can you see through this mist? Gabriella shook her head. I'm sorry. It can't be helped. All right, stay close to me and keep very alert. We'll try not to just bump into Itaki. As a unit team, Kusina went into the park. Given their abilities, it had not been hard for Kiba and Hinata to join up before reaching the western edge of the park. The fog was not a problem for them. Hinata's Byakugan was already active. Since they could hear him talking, they knew he was still fighting Itaki. Do you see him? Kiba asked. Yes. And I see Itaki and Kakashi-sensei too. Sensei will reach Naruto-kun first. Come on, let's hurry. Together they headed straight for Naruto. It never even occurred to them to wait. Kisame finished off the last of the clones. He had a huge smile on his face. Now that was a good workout. He was also amused to have taken a few minor cuts while fighting of about 70 shadow clones. He recognized the jutsu, of course, and wondered how a Leaf Nin had learned it. Chuckling, he set off to try and find his partner in this mess. As all the different groups converged, things were about to get interesting. Chapter 40, Hit the Target. Despite some pain, he stood up. The wound on his leg was already healing. In a few minutes it would be gone without even a scar. Naruto was faced with a problem. That was how to get angry. Or to be more specific, how to get angry enough to summon the red chakra. He already felt plenty of anger and felt massive amounts of extra chakra available for casting jutsus. But if he was going to kill someone as strong as Itaki, he wanted all the power possible. The problem was he couldn't tap into the red chakra except when he was furiously angry. And it seemed that merely being threatened with capture and eventual death wasn't enough to make him that angry. He chuckled sourly. He'd been worried something like this would happen eventually. When he had last had a conversation with the bastard fox, he'd wanted to ask if he could somehow just summon the red chakra without the extreme anger. But he'd been dismissed before he could ask. "Baka fox," he muttered. "Fine, I'll just do this with my own chakra." He rubbed some of the blood from his wound on his katana, wiped it, and put back in its scabbard. He then created 30 shadow clones. From a distance, Itachi called to him through the fog. "That will not work." Naruto was not surprised that someone of Itachi's ability would be able to sense the clones even without seeing them. "No, it probably won't, but it's a start until I can come up with something better." The clones drew out their swords and got moving. As they went, he thought about his available jutsus and just how he was going to beat Itachi. He was a close combat specialist, and Itachi with his Sharingan was a hell of a target to try and take down. The single most impressive thing he had ever seen any ninja do had been when Itachi had stopped one of his mother's attacks with nothing but his bare hand. Recalling that now, he began to get an idea. He frowned as the memories of several of his clones came to him. Itachi had brought a sword with him and was using it quite well. With his sword and kunai, the clones wouldn't last long. He was also surprised to feel a familiar chakra's signature approach. "Is that you, Naizen?" He finally switched his radio communicator to receive. "Naruto? Can you hear me?" Kakashi's voice came over. "Hi. I'll be right there, hold in place for just a moment," Kakashi said. "Naruto-kun, are you alright?" Both his mother and Hinata said the exact same words right on top of one another. He quickly assured them both he was fine. "Hinata, where are you, and is Kiba with you?" Kakashi asked over the line. "Hi Kakashi-sensei. Kiba and I are approaching Naruto from the west. We should reach him just after you do," Hinata said. "Hinata," Naruto suddenly said. "Can you and Kiba stop maybe a couple 100 yards behind Itachi and wait there?" "Naruto-kun," Hinata's unhappy voice said. "You promised no to try and protect me." Naruto sighed. "I remember, Hinata-chan. I'm not trying to protect you. Since the whole team is here, I have a plan." Kakashi and Pakun finally reached him. "What sort of plan?" Wasting no time, he quickly outlined his idea. "If we work together, I think we can do this." Kakashi thought about it. "Are you sure you have enough chakra to use both?" Naruto smiled. "Kakashi Naizen, I have chakra to burn. The timing has to be absolutely perfect, or else his reaction will be different from what we need," Kakashi pointed out. "I know, but I think we can do this." Naruto looked a bit worried. "I only have a few clones left fighting him. We need to do this or come up with something else in a real hurry." Kakashi thought about it. It wasn't actually a bad plan and might work so long as their timing was perfect. "All right, Kiba and Hinata, did you both hear all that?" "Yes," they both chimed in. "Then get in position and tell me when you're ready." XXXXXXXXXX. "Oh mom. I almost forgot. Itachi came here with a partner. He's got blue skin and carried a huge sword. Itachi called him Kisame." "Hashige Kisame," Haku said with certainty. "You know him?" Kusina asked. Haku nodded. "He was an associate of Zabuza-sama's. I would never call him a friend. He is extremely powerful and has a massive chakra reserve. He wields a special sword called Same Hata. It shaves rather than cuts. He is extremely dangerous." A laugh came out of the fog. "Ah, it's good to be so famous. Is that you, Haku?" Everyone in Team Kushina drew out their weapons as a figure approached them and became visible out of the mist. "Well, I see it is. So where's Zabuza and why is he hiding out in the Leaf Village?" "Zabuza-sama is dead," Haku said quietly. "I was invited here and have become a ninja of the Leaf." "So Zabuza's dead, huh?" Kisame shrugged. "Well, I never thought he was going to die of old age. Listen, Haku, why don't you come with me? I could use a powerful apprentice." and one day you could be a full member of the organization I serve. I thank you for the offer, Kisame-san. However, I have found my place. He looked at Kushina. And people who I care for. He sent Gabriella a sidelong glance. Kisame shrugged. Suit yourself, kid. If you're here with Itaka, then I am going to have to stop you. Kushina said. Kisame eyed her carefully. Nice sword, and the way you're holding it I can tell you know how to use it. So who are you? I am Namikaze Kushina. Never heard of you. Kisame grinned. I'm guessing you must be related to Namikaze Naruto. I'm his mother. Really? Then I guess you'd probably object to the fact I intend to take your boy and gut him like a fish. Kushina actually stared at him for a second, not believing what he had just said to her. You did not just say that. Gabriella muttered to herself. Kushina's killer intent suddenly filled the air. She moved like a blur and Kisame just got his sword up in time to keep hers from cutting his neck. I am going to kill you. XXXXXXXXXXX. We are in position. Hinata's voice came through. He just took out the last clone. Naruto said. All right, Kakashi spoke. Hinata, Kiba, begin. Kakashi meanwhile began focusing chakra onto his right hand. Again, for this to work the timing will have to be perfect. I know. Naruto held out his right palm and chakra began to swirl about. XXXXXXXXXXX. With the last clone gone, Itaka was not surprised to hear movement coming from behind or to sense a pair of new chakra signatures. He turned about. Fang over fang technique. Two spiraling masses came at him. With his speed he was able to dodge them without effort. That was when a young Hyuga girl came at him using her clan's gentle fist technique. You are Hinata, I believe. Itaka said calmly. The clan heir. That's right. She came at him without fear. Don't bother with your genjutsu. They won't affect me so long as my Byakugan remains active. And Kiba is tracking you by scent, not sight. She hadn't managed to hit him once yet. Being able to read her movements, he was able to stay a step ahead. Meanwhile, from behind, Kiba and Akamaru made another attack run. That was well thought out, but still futile. He leapt back and began casting Dragon Fire technique. Out of his mouth a mass of flames spouted down towards her. On instinct she worked the technique she had only recently gotten down. She worked her rotation and the flames were scattered about. Kiba and Akamaru were forced to dodge to avoid the flames. Itaka landed and was unaware that the real attack was about to begin. From the fog he heard a sound like birds chirping. Chidori. From his left, Kakashi burst out of the mist. Raise Non. From his right came Naruto. Their timing was perfect and they both reached him at the exact same moment. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kisame laughed. She had forced him back several steps, her attack was ferocious. You're a 5th level master of blades. I'm impressed. Swinging Same Hata back, he swung down with all his might. Kushina blocked it with her katana, but the sheer force of the blow caught her head on and was too much. She was thrown to the ground. Kisame drew his sword back ready to start shaving. Grand Fireball technique. Gabriella shot out a large boulder of flame. Kisame was forced to leap backwards. As he did so he faced a shower of senbons. Most he warded off with his large blade, a few got through. When Kisame landed, Haku cast a special jutsu. Secret Art of Water Ice Crystal Magic Mirror Technique. The air around him began to solidify into a number of ice mirrors. Haku quickly entered one of them and his image appeared throughout. Please surrender, Kisame-san, as I have no wish to kill you. Kisame laughed. Don't get cocky, kid. He began forming hand signs. Exploding Water Shockwave Technique. The ground beneath his feet split open and water began to pour out. I'll be able to use all my jutsus, while I don't think your precious senbons will have the same punch going through water. Almost immediately the water was up to his chest and still rising. The small amount of chakra that was spread out between all the mirrors was enough to keep the water from spilling out. This had the effect of filling the dome that much faster. That is true, Kisame-san, my senbons will be rendered useless. But you have forgotten one thing. The water had filled up the entire dome in well under a minute. Being underwater, Kisame could not talk, but he sent the images of Haku a smug smile which clearly meant, "Oh yeah, what? I have a Keki I Genkai." Haku said. "One that allows me to make ice." With that he flash froze all the water within the dome. He stepped out of the ice mirrors and dispelled them. In the middle of Konoha Park on a hot summer day was a 20-foot tall dome of water with a mist nin frozen in the very middle. "Well done, Haku," Kushina said, looking very impressed. "Thank you, Kushina-sama." "Haku?" Gabriella asked. "Yes." She smiled at him. "Want to go ice skating later?" He stared at her, not sure if she was serious. All around them the mist was lifting. XXXXXXXXXXX. Their attack could not have been timed better. Even so, using his Sharingan he was able to track both attacks as they came in. And as he had done 4 years before with Kushina, his hand snapped out and stopped the attack by grabbing his opponent by the wrist. He had stopped both Naruto and Kakashi before they could reach him. That was a truly excellent attempt. Itaka complimented them. "But you still failed to strike your target." Smiling savagely, Naruto curled his left hand into a fist and quickly focused all the chakra he could into it. He was wanting to go for Itaka's head but was being held out too far away to reach it. So he hit Itaka's shoulder instead. Itaka saw what was coming but could not dodge without releasing a Chidori or Rasengan to strike him. He screamed out in pain as his shoulder exploded in a shower of blood and meat. His right arm continued to grip Naruto's wrist even though it was no longer attached to his body. He forcefully threw Kakashi down and with a single hand performed a shunshin and disappeared. "Damn it," Kakashi growled. Knowing Itaka will never catch him now. Naruto was feeling a bit grossed out as he had to pry Itaka's fingers loose. He went ahead and ended the mist jutsu. "That's too bad. I guess I'll have to kill him the next time I see him." Kakashi frowned as Kiba and Hinata came over to make sure he was alright. "Naruto, you only beat him today because you had us to help. Next time you might be on your own." "I know that, Naizen." Naruto nodded. "That's why I am going to get a lot stronger." "Ew," Gabriella said, and Hinata nodded in agreement. "I can't believe that's cousin Itaka's arm. It would have been his head if I could have managed it," Naruto said flatly. He was eyeing her without enthusiasm. Kushina sighed. "Son, Gabriella is not Itaka or Sasuke or Fugaku. She is her own person and I have come to think very highly of her." She smiled widely. "Thank you, sensei." Kushina smiled back. "You're welcome, dear, but just so you know, you and Haku are still getting punished for what you did." "What?" she shouted. "But we stopped that Kisame guy. It was a good thing that we came." "Oh, I agree. But if I don't punish you, then you will start thinking my orders are voluntary and they're not. This time things worked out. Next time ignoring my orders might be a disaster. When I give you an order, it's not a request and I expect to be obeyed." Gabriella sighed. "So you're really going to make me and Haku go in the circle?" Kushina looked at her. "Yes, but you'll only have to stay for 6 hours." Gabriella looked immensely relieved while Haku was calmly accepting. "We can do that tomorrow. Why don't we all get something to eat?" She looked at her son. "And I mean all of us, it'll give everyone a chance to get to know each other." Still not looking very eager, Naruto nodded. He knew his mother really wanted him to. And suddenly he stopped nodding. "Oh hell." He began running. "Naruto!" Kakashi called after him. She was standing there outside the park entrance just as he'd told her to. He ran up to her and immediately gave her a hug. I'm so sorry Imuto-chan, are you alright? Alisa blushed a great deal and nodded. I'm fine Naizen, it wasn't that long. She saw that his cloak was gone and the clothes he had on were torn and dirty. Are you alright Naizen? He smiled at his new little sister happily. Never better. He pulled her up back on his shoulders again. Eek. Naruto relaxed and laughed. Come on Imuto-chan, let's have lunch with mom and Haku and some people you haven't met yet. Don't you have to meet with your team to practice Naizen? He shook his head. My team is among the people you'll be meeting, and I think I've had my workout for the day.